pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Joy Beers? Mr. Richard Beltz?
Here.
Mr. David Bradley?
Here.
Mr. Stephen Holland?
Here.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik?
Here.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli?
Here.
Mr. Wayne Wentz?
Here.
Mr. Andy Answer?
Here.
Mr. Larry Stern?
Here.
All present.
Just a formal notice of executive session was held on October 1st and today from 6:30 to 7 for the superintendent's evaluation. Mr. Clear?
Thank you. At this time, we have a presentation from Mrs. Holland and Mr. Hauser. They had a special guest at the high school last week, and I've had a lot of positive feedback from it, and we asked that they come up here and share with the board some of the highlights from that presentation that they had. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Mr. Hauser and Mrs. Holland.
Thank you. Just trying to get the PowerPoint loaded up here. Give me about 10 seconds here. Last week we had a very unique guest speaker. Yeah, no, I'm not ready for it yet. As soon as it opens, yeah. There we go.
That's good.
Okay.
That'll work.
So thank you for the patience there. Last week on October 17th, we were very, very pleased and very honored to welcome a Holocaust survivor and published author about her experiences, Mrs. Sonia Kaplan, to Lee Heighton Area High School to address our students, our faculty, staff, and administration. She is the author of the book, My Endless War. Her work has been, I'll use the word accredited, by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum. She has traveled the country and has spoken in over 60 different high schools, and we were very privileged to have her address our students last week and share her story. A little bit about her, just a couple of things that I thought were minor in the grand scheme, but still at the same time very impressive. She is 90 years old. She lives in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Drove about 3 hours into Pennsylvania and stood for the entire presentation. And I offered a chair for her to sit in. She was borderline offended, and addressed, our 800 people that were in the auditorium that day, and did an incredible job. She also stayed around for an extra 2 hours to do a Q&A session and meet and greet with students and faculty alike, and sign copies of her books that she had brought for us. We were able to make contact with Mrs. Kaplan through Joanna Barilla, one of our paraprofessionals in the building. Joanna's here, I believe. I asked her to come. You stand, you recognize. Joanna had met Mrs. Kaplan's family and read her book and had come to me at the beginning of the school year, very impressed with the book and wondering if we could do something. So, Joanna, do you have anything to add?
Sure. Good evening. I am thrilled that Mr. Hauser, Mrs. Talent, and all of you guys allowed me to bring her in. She was fantastic. I was in tears, obviously, right at the beginning when she came and visited us, but even more in tears and impressed when the kids on the following days, which was Thursday and Friday, and even today, approached me and say thank you, which I said, don't thank me, I have nothing to do with that. But I said, wow, she was so inspirational, not even about talking about World War II and Holocaust, but giving them the hope. She was 12, and as she mentioned, she lost the entire family. 68 folks from her entire family on both sides, from mom and dad, were killed. And she's 12 years old. What does she do? So she was telling the kids the huge message she was giving them. You can do it. You just have to stay strong. Whatever those days, you go to college. You know, she was very much into religious part also. I have a pleasure to talk to her on Saturday, and talking about standing in front of us for 2 hours. On Saturday, she kept me on the phone for 4 hours and was telling me more stories. And I was impressed. I loved it, and I promised her I'd come and visit her. It's all about her and the kids. The message our high school kiddos got, and that's exactly what we needed to hear from them. And I'm very thankful. Thank you. And she's as well. She was humbled. Her whole family is very thrilled. Because obviously she doesn't drive, but she came over with my friends, and she was very strong. I invited her for dinner. She was impressed with everything and how lovely our high. She was repeatedly saying, oh, you have such a nice buildings in behind. Wow, what a nice buildings. I'm thinking 1993, but yes, we have very nice buildings. She was very impressed, so it was a great experience for her as well, and our students. And I thank you very much for inviting her. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. As Mrs. Brilla said, she's the only person on both sides of her family to actually survive World War II and the Holocaust. She also told me after the presentation that the estimated population of her city in Poland was 36,000 people prior to the Holocaust, and to her knowledge, she was the only one remaining from that time period. So again, just incredibly humbling. I did want to share with the board and the community some of the things that went on that day. We had her greeted at the building, not by teachers, not by me, not by anyone else, but by the students. We invited members of the senior class, the class officers and the officers of student council, to greet her with cards and flowers as she came in. One of the things she had said to students at this time was, quote, kind of a little off there on the projection, if I survived a war and the Holocaust, I know I have a purpose and this is it. And she meant education about this time period and getting out there and speaking to students. One of the things that I took away from this, and I thought was very powerful, and this line resonated with a lot with our students, it's the most common line that I heard brought up in feedback, was she was very passionate about this. She must have said it 3 or 4 times in different ways. Do not let your past control your future. She talked about the dark days she faced during the Holocaust and the dark days that she faced emotionally and personally after, dealing with the trauma, dealing with the grief and the stress of that. And, she was very honest with what her experiences were and why she left Europe and what her experiences were here in the United States then. And she at one point said, I had to realize the past was the past and I need to move on. You learn from the past, you can shape who you are, but life continues. And a lot of kids really took that to heart and were very impressed with that. Something we were also able to do was use this event to build some partnerships. Our English department chair at the high school is Sharon Leitzel. She regularly attends the content networking sessions at the intermediate unit. These are sessions where different school districts in the IU will get together by subject and collaborate on what's new in the field, new ideas, new topics, and just get together and bounce ideas off of one another. And Mrs. Leitzel and Mrs. Jones, who is a teacher up in Panther Valley, got talking about this event as it was forthcoming. And Mrs. Leitzel said, well, maybe you guys could come. So Mrs. Jones emailed me, and we were able to put that together. So we were actually able to welcome a Holocaust Studies class from a neighboring school district, build that partnership, and get them to meet. So those students are Panther Valley students who came to visit Lee Heighton and hear Mrs. Kaplan speak. So it was nice to have, some crossing of district lines for this event as well. You can see I have her quote up there. said she was very grateful for the opportunity, and it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and she gave a lot of accolades to our faculty and staff for how welcoming they were, and also to the students for how welcoming they were. After the presentation, she spoke for about an hour about her book, about her experiences. She read a few passages to us. She got some questions from the kids, and one of her responses I thought was very profound. And she was giving advice to our student body. She said, never be a bystander, take a part. You have to protect one another. She related that to bullying. She related that to larger societal things as well. And again, a lot of feedback about that line from the kids. After the presentation, she did a book signing in the auditorium. I think she stayed there until almost 3 o'clock. So she was there for a good hour and a half, had copies of her book, signed them for faculty members and also students. We had several students stay after school wanting to meet her. Some stood in line not for a signed book or anything, but just to give her a hug and ask a question that they might have been a little self-conscious to ask in front of the entire auditorium. But she stood there and she talked to everyone. It didn't matter how long you went to talk to her, it didn't matter if you had to shake her hand, just meet her, give her a hug, and she was game for all that. Just a wonderful, wonderful speaker to bring in. Mrs. Brilliant, correct me if I'm wrong, I think she speaks 6 languages, we found out?
Yes, she does. She spoke to my Nola, and she says, I don't remember much Polish, and she was just going on and on and on. I'm like, oh, she speaks better than my own kid. So yeah, she does.
She had told me that. I had mentioned that I was an English teacher a few years ago, and she had said that she spoke 6 languages, and I asked her, how difficult is that? And she had this line, I thought it was pretty neat. If someone can do something, so could I, and better. And she said that kind of guided her throughout her life, and eventually, 60 years after her experiences, she wrote her memoir as well. So again, we were very pleased to have Mrs. Kaplan. I did want to give a little bit of an overview about some of the speakers that we have had at Lehighton High School in the last year, and then also what we're looking to do with our guest speakers. These are the goals that Mrs. Howland and I kind of came up with when it came to creating presentations for our students. We wanted to create very meaningful and authentic experiences for students. Get someone in front of them that would really make an impact and drive ideas home. And also get them to reflect on things and get them to take what they hear in an assembly, roll that into what they're talking about in their classrooms. Sometimes it was my experience in the past where assemblies were one thing and classroom experience was another. So we're trying to synthesize those 2 things. And this was a prime example of that. One thing we also want to do, we have found, and Mrs. Howland and I, as we reach out to different people, that we have such a wealth of experience from our own alumni that want to come back and give back to their home district, that we're setting up some really neat events. So we did want to engage with them. We did want to engage more with community resources that we have. And here's an example. These are just some of last year's speakers that we had. Mr. Jim Tack, who was a graduate, talking about mental health and the BOTAC Foundation. Very near and dear organization of my heart. I graduated high school with Bo in 2001. So to have him come back was great. Candace Malkowitz, she was the Senior Crest Freshman Class valedictorian. We had a grad recently. She spoke at the National Honor Society. Pennsylvania's Attorney General was in. Brandon Williams was in, a graduate who also does drug and alcohol counseling. Judge Joe Matika was in. Dr. Shane Haight spoke at our Top 10% banquet. He's a PhD graduate from Penn State. He works for Pratt Whitney in engineering. Last year we also had the very first alumni college and career discussion panel. We had the graduates, you see at the bottom, Derek Maris, Gwen, Skylar Devin, Seth, and Jake. Each one of them has a unique path. There are local business owners on there. Gwen Ramelli owns the fitness center over on the zoo over on 443. Jake's in the military. Derek is, he went to Balloon, majored in Arabic studies, and now is doing work with the government. And we also went to trade and technical schools there, so it was a nice discussion panel last year. And on the agenda for this year, we have, of course, Sonia Kaplan. We have Marshall Walters coming in November to talk to our National Honor Society inductees. He's the owner of Architectural Polymers and a graduate. Mr. Brent Kunkel, he is a documentarian presently contracted with Showtime and HBO. Again, a Lehighton graduate is coming in to talk about his show, The Trade, that he made for Showtime, a documentary on drugs in America and the things that he has seen. And we're looking to get David Brazino in here in April. He's the Chief Development Officer for the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. So we're looking to add more to this as well, but we are making those connections and getting some real meaningful speakers into our students. And Mrs. Kaplan kind of took the cake this year, so it was again a wonderful experience. Questions from the board? Anyone?
You're going to fill the schedule? You had about 9 last year?
Yeah, we're looking to, yep, as sometimes, we have a couple in the works that we didn't want to put up there yet because they're not quite confirmed. We're working on dates and stuff like
You
that.
do one about once a month?
Trying to. Again, it depends on scheduling of things. The winter is notoriously bad for that. One snow day can kind of throw everything off. But ideally, we get one a month, one every other month. Some of those speakers that were on the other slide too were multiple speakers but in the same event. So for example, when Attorney General Shapiro was in and Judge Matika, they were part of the same event. Just 2 different speakers at 2 different times. But we are looking to branch out. If we can add more, we'll add more. Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you. What's that?
When he moves that, just in case it hits your
No,
key.
we'll be all right.
We'll move on to the next section of the public comment on the agenda. First up is Ms. Lori Bowman, page 1, item number 5, page 2, 15, page 10, item number 14.
Can I do this? Yeah, it has to be turned on. Turn on. Good evening. Upon reviewing the minutes from the last 2 board meetings, it is apparent that the board and stakeholders are looking at more effective ways to use courtesy of the floor without causing many interruptions and continuous chaos. Excuse me. Presently, courtesy of the floor is offered on every agenda item, page 1, number 5, prior to the meeting. New motions under old or new business, and at the very end of the board meeting, page 11, number 15. Agenda item number 14 on page 10, director's concerns, leaves us, the stakeholders, without any knowledge of what might be addressed, which is not at all transparent, although the board continues to push for transparency. Perhaps some of the director's concerns are not relative to board business at the time, as witnessed at previous board meetings, and should be taken to respective committees for consideration, and then brought back to the board as a whole. Another concern brought up by stakeholders is the ability to comment on said motions after board discussion on that motion, as there may be more input on that item from stakeholders prior to the vote. I would suggest the policy committee meet to address this concern and brainstorm ideas of addressing audience input. Proper procedures and protocol still, of course, need to be followed to allow for civil discourse without 1 or 2 board members attempting to control the meetings when the president resides, and without interruptions or unwarranted comments. If everyone, from the board to the stakeholders, has the district's best interests at heart, so we can have a positive impact on our community, we will continue to find ways to make our board meetings more productive and respectful. This should give all of us pause for thought. Possibly taking the above suggestions to task can be helpful. Thank you.
Next up will be Roger Bose, item K, and then item B.
Okay, my question, well, my comment is on motion K. It's extremely vague. People that I've spoken to don't understand what it means. I think they do, but I'm not sure I do. It seems to give significant legal powers to the board president. But in policy 011, under the Code of Conduct, it states individuals have no legal authority outside the meetings of the board and should conduct their relationships with all stakeholders and media on this basis. But here it seems that you're overriding that policy and giving, like I said, I think I understand what it means, but it's not at all clear to the stakeholders in the community. And we think that maybe you want to rethink the motion to make it clearer, so that we understand what it is you're trying to accomplish with this motion. I personally think it's because there might be time constraints if something should come up. And it can't be addressed prior to the next regular meeting. I mean, that's what special meetings are for, but I've had numerous people question me. I said, I don't know, I didn't write it. So I can guess, but am I guessing correctly, or am I letting my own personal feelings get in the way? I don't know. And I just wish that we would make it clearer, more concise, explain to us what the motion means. Thank you.
Mr. Bradley, item K.
I agree with everything she just said. The only thing I can add is not only is it not within our policy to allow individuals of a board to act as the board, but in this situation, apparently you're trying to allow an individual board member to meet with or authorize consumption of dollars with a solicitor, which is also against the new rules that the board has established, that without board approval of 5 members, do you have a right to incur charges by a solicitor? But if he does make a decision, since he's not allowed without the board approval, when it comes back to the board at the next meeting, according to what this motion was written, and it's like you said, I thought you wrote it, to be honest with you, Larry, I thought you wrote it. So it's so convoluted, but you're saying that the solicitor wrote it. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, so, wow. But anyway, so it allows the solicitor to get paid to do a job that you think is okay, and if the board finds out that it's not okay, then we're going to pay the solicitor a second time to undo what he just did. And to me, it's a very self-serving motion. I think it should be reviewed by the policy committee prior to even showing up on the agenda, and it violates so many state laws and board governance and policies to allow an individual to act as the board in the interim of a board meeting. It's wrong. It's not what the public meetings are for.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. We will move on to communications. Superintendent's report.
Thank you. I'd like to thank the local fire departments for assisting with programs during Fire Safety Week. All 3 buildings took part in programs and trainings, and again, all the local fire departments did take part in these programs. On Saturday, October 13th, they even offered a program at a middle school for our students and community, and they said even though the weather wasn't the best, the event they felt was well attended. And again, we appreciate the great work and relationship we have with all local emergency and first responding agencies. So last week there was a lot of time and effort spent from them with fire safety programs, and they do a great job. And I know a lot of the buildings and the Twitter pages and the Twitter handles are going with postings with pictures and everything. And again, the kids really enjoy it. It's great to have that type of relationship and see them working with our students the way they do. Also like to thank our staff along with students and staff from Milton Hershey School for a great program. Margaret Rich, the admissions counselor from Milton Hershey, was our elementary center and presented about the possibility of students with needs attending the Milton Hershey School. We had a total of 12 families who attended the presentation, and then from what she told us, there's another 19 who requested additional information, so there was some families that couldn't make it to the presentation. They did a nice job. They had a nice meal nutrition group with a nice meal on for the families. There's a lot of information shared for Milton Hershey School, and we currently do have students who are attending there now. It's a great opportunity for students who may have had a rough life for different life-altering situations, whether it be loss of a parent or someone and they're being raised by another individual. Milton Hershey has a great program that they offer our students, a program there to attend at school. On October 8th, the middle school and elementary staff received our emergency response training known as ALICE. We received a lot of positive feedback from the program, and on November 7th, the high school staff will be receiving their training. As a district, we will continue to have interactive and online trainings for all staff while continuing to maintain a safe and healthy learning environment for our students. With the November 7th date also being parent-teacher conferences, we will be moving the academic affairs meeting to the following Wednesday, November 14th. That way, the teachers who are on that committee can be able to attend because they're at parent-teacher conferences, so moving that to the following Wednesday, we'll get those notifications out. We're continuing to work through the punch list items at the elementary school. I know there was a question about some of the cracks in the concrete work at the back of the building. This was brought to our attention several months ago, I believe. Ms. Mahalik actually said something to Steve, who in turn mentioned something to me a couple months ago. That is being addressed. Just for this particular item, they are grinding out the cracks and they begin backfilling with concrete mix and then caulk, and this minimizes any type of water seepage because that was the concern from there, getting water to freeze and thaw and having damage. So that individual item that was asked about is being addressed. And many of the items listed on the punch list are currently being addressed on a daily basis, so they're still in there doing the touch-ups. There was a long list, and it's slowly, every week we get an update, and it's starting to get smaller and smaller. And that concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. Cleaver.
Excuse me, Mr. Cleaver?
Yes.
You mentioned about some of the committee meetings. I noticed that on our communications, we don't have anything about the personnel meetings.
Right.
When does the personnel committee meeting meet?
When do we have a personnel committee? When do they meet?
Yeah, when do they meet?
They can meet various times. A lot of times it's with negotiations as well too, because it's personnel / negotiations, so it could be that.
So that meeting is held where?
If we have it, usually we hold here. If it's for negotiations, we may have it in a building just to make it easier for the teachers if we have
Okay.
it.
And
Or
then
support
it's
staff.
an open committee meeting to the public?
No, those are not.
Why is the personnel committee, a standing committee, not available and open to a public in a public?
Because you're talking about personnel issues. Could be medical, could be other situations, could be legal. You know.
So is that personnel committee meeting then taking information that is not available to the rest of the board?
Is it taking information?
Yeah, it's collecting information that's not available to the rest of the board and bringing it to the board?
Depending on what it may be. That may be a discussion piece of it, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Do they take minutes at those meetings?
No.
So there's no minutes. It's a personnel committee meeting. Who's on the personnel committee?
To
It's,
discuss personnel issues.
right, it's Rita, Wayne, Larry, and Steve, correct?
I believe you're correct, yes.
And you believe that that committee is not supposed to be allowed to be viewed by the public?
No, you're talking about personnel issues.
But you don't use employee numbers and do it?
No, not when you're talking about, personnel issues. When in public, we use personnel numbers, yes, employee numbers, absolutely.
Mr. Farrell, is that correct? You can have a committee meeting that is separate from the board meeting and separate from a public meeting? I mean, is that even possible as a standing committee? This is not an ad hoc committee, right? This is a standing
This
committee.
is information that would then be shared with the board.
But it's a standing committee. Let Mr. Farrell.
If you're discussing materials that would be excluded from executive session, you can have closed meetings. So at those personal meetings, if they're discussing family medical leave act, if they're discussing retirements, if they're discussing disciplinary issues, yes, you can have it closed.
And negotiations as well, we could.
And negotiations as well is also an exception.
And that's an exception to the Sunshine Act inside of that meeting.
And the right to know law. Both of those.
One more quick question. So, all board members allowed to participate in that personnel meeting?
Oh, we got personnel committee meetings. I mean, if it's the exec session.
Now I'm asking, are all board meetings, all board members allowed to participate in the personnel committee meeting?
No, because it could be negotiations. I know we've dealt with negotiations, and it's the people on that committee that deal with it.
So they're disinvited. Meaning, if I show up at a personnel committee meeting, I will not be allowed to attend, participate, or provide oversight.
It would depend on depending on the topic. I mean, if it was for negotiations, I would think negotiation committee would be, excuse me.
So that's a yes, that you're gonna restrict an individual board member
No.
from attending a meeting, a personnel or a negotiation committee meeting.
I would think for negotiations, the negotiation committee should be the ones that, are part of it, yes.
One more, yes or no? Will you allow individual board members that are not part of that committee to attend a negotiation committee meeting or a personnel committee meeting?
We have not in the past, but I could say I don't think I had anyone ask me that exact question.
Okay. Mr. Fowler, if I choose to attend any of those two committee meetings, would I be restricted from attending as a board member?
I'm not sure, Mr. Bradley, I have to get into that with you.
Okay. When is the next of those two meetings scheduled to occur? Please inform me, I'm officially making notice, please inform me and the rest of the board when those two meetings, personnel or negotiation meetings, will occur in advance notice so that they can prepare and attend.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Fike?
Yes, our office is completing the audit and the AFR filing this month. We're also coming up with a transition plan for changing banks, which we should have ready for the board next November. We're also putting together RFPs for brokerage services for health, liability, and our stop loss carriers. And we're also putting an RFP, which we have to have out for next year for our food service company. Every 5 years you have to go out to RFP. That ends my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fike. Board President's report, I have just a couple items. Number one, this is Red Ribbon Week across all of our schools, which is an alcohol, tobacco, and drug and violence prevention awareness week. So I know there will be various programs at all the buildings to support that activity. And as I breezed through browse the agenda, should I say, I did see the community involvement that we have with a number of our businesses and our social institutions, which I thank them very much for the support of the district. I know they're giving funds specifically for different programs, which is, an admirable activity. So that concludes my report. Memorial Library report, Ms. Mahalik.
Thank you. I know everyone knows that the Lehigh Area Library was awarded, thank you, $169,000 Keystone Grant, which will go towards the 1,400 square foot building addition. The construction project will provide additional space for youth services, community room, and 2 ADA restrooms. Everyone was so excited to hear the great news that we celebrated with chocolates and champagne. Book signing by author Dan Urban was held this month. Programs held this month include story time on Wednesdays and Thursdays, one-on-one computer help on Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock, and on the third Wednesday of every month is book club. The carbon and abatement project was completed on time, and the library reopened on October 1st. In other business, Hawk reported that a sump pump was replaced in the basement. Also noted, Hawk is, Melissa Hawk, and she's a librarian. She also noted that she received the state aid application and has it ready to be mailed. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Ms. Mahalik. Legislative Policy Committee, Ms. Smiley.
Well, I'm going to defer to Ms. Beers and Mrs. Mahalik because they attended the PSBA conference and we spoke about this last month. If you would tell us what you learned.
Do you want to go first?
Sure. I'll make some brief statements. We spent several days at PSBA's school director conference, and I'm not going to go on at what went on there, but I'm going to hit 3 interesting highlights. I met a school board member and an administrator from Laurel Highlands. The school board member had 17 years as a school board director and had been a former employee, and the administrator had 29 years. And they were describing that in their board, that in their district, the board does all the hiring, including all the interviews. And I know, Dave, that you had an interest in that. So I have their cards, and I'm going to be reaching out, and their administrator is going to share their policies with us for whatever interest we might have in that. Second point of interest, one of the keynote speakers, Dr. Robin Jackson, talked about improving the quality within districts by working with employees. And one of the things, several things she talked about was doing 360-degree reviews that include feedback from students and parents, which I think would be great here. She also cautioned not to wait for failure of any policies to be proactive. Let's see here. The final and very interesting talk, there was a Dr. Munson, who's a school director, I think at East Penn. He is a professor at Lehigh University and is a father of children in his district. And he talked about a lot of statistics about security in schools. Everybody's really interested in this. And he pointed out that security officers, there is no statistics that show that that has any impact of safety. He talked about a phrase that's being used a lot in research I've been doing called security theater, where people do things within their districts that make people feel better, and it gives an impression, but the statistics don't actually show that it protects students. He had a whole list of things like bulletproof glass, putting locks on doors, and he said that this hasn't been doing anything. And he talked about different types of measures, those being researched by like the FBI and that, which is actually engaging students and creating an atmosphere in which students have access to teachers or social workers, and that students are never surprised by who perpetrates these shootings in their districts because of the things that they see happening. So if anyone would be interested, I would recommend that we reach out to Dr. Munson and try to find out more about the research so that we don't spend money on measures that aren't actually making our district safe, and try to direct our efforts in ways that will make our district safe. That's it.
I'd like to thank the board for giving Joey and I the opportunity to learn more about our role as school directors at the 2018 PASA and PSBA Leadership Conference. We tried to learn as much as we could, so we attended as many sessions as time allowed. I attended 2 sessions on school safety. Both had a different approach to making schools safe and secure, but when I analyzed the contents of the sessions, they really were more similar than different. One session focused on children having someone who they feel comfortable to talk to when they need help, or if they know something about another student. While the second speaker said that after he analyzed several studies, evidence suggests that an SRO or sworn law enforcement officer has no effect on school violence or weapons incidents in the school. He said that the only thing that makes a difference is having less movement in the hallways. He also said that having security officers in schools makes students feel less safe, not more. He said that real solutions come from students and tracking mental health issues. I was also very interested in the session about how a school community changed school start times. I was more interested in the process than in the end result. It took a little over 2 years for Unionville, Chadsworth School District to implement the time change. During that time, community members, students, teachers, parents, and administration worked together. The presenter said that without a spirit of transparency, good communication, and cooperation, the process would not have worked. They also were able to make that change for only $2,500. While there were several speakers, the most memorable talk was the one given by Rachel Scott's father, Darnell Scott. His daughter was the first student shot in Columbine. He said that more than 17 million people have been touched by Rachel, who believed that everyone should be treated with kindness, compassion, and respect. We also visited exhibit halls and learning labs, plus took time in the delegate assembly. We also networked with many other board members from throughout the state. Well, thank you.
Anything to add, Mrs. Miller?
No. Sorry.
Item 1, Advisory Committee, Mr. and Mrs. Bowman.
Okay, this is the fun part. The Title I staff met on Friday, September 21st. A lot of topics were discussed, including the consolidated application, school-wide specifics on reporting number of students receiving services instead of student names, talked about the MTSS program with meeting dates of once a month, on Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, all of our benchmark testing and software programs, and of course, taking a look at our parent night, which was October the 10th. The school-wide plan was approved October the 4th, with commendations from our regional coordinator, Maria Garcia, on the quality of our plan. So kudos to all those who assisted in the process. Fall Parent Night was held on Wednesday, October the 11th, from 5:30 to 8, with close to 500 people in attendance. That was a record number, with between grandparents, kids, staff, custodians, nutrition group who served over 350 meals, because they actually counted, so it was great. We had a PowerPoint continuously rolling out regarding our school-wide services, and of course the cat and hat and Morat appearances, since it was Susan Palooza. And students expressed how much they liked the new school, as well as many parents and the PTO. Overall, it was a great night, and our thanks goes out to all the staff, including the paraprofessionals, custodial, cafeteria, secretaries, regular education staff, and special teachers, Title I, MTSS, and administrators. It truly was a team effort to be able to pull off what we did. So, and there was nobody like Mr. Fike. For somebody who works all day and he attends the Fall Parent Night and talks to people and serves food, we can't ask for a better business manager than who would do that. So kudos to Mr. Fike and all the staff for helping. And our next staff meeting is November the 16th at 7:45. We'll be meeting at the center. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bowman.
You're welcome.
CCTI report, Mr. Answer.
We're not plugged in tonight, so I'll speak up a little louder. School year continues to run in parallel with Lehighton here. Many activities and events have taken place already, including the 5K and golf outing, to support school functions, and then also points to note would be the police officer that was just been placed at the school, approved by the Common Court of Pleas. So that police officer is in place and working with students and staff in a positive way to avoid school violence. That concludes my report.
Anyone else like Mr. Wagner? Hopefully it gets
Okay. It'll get there. Yeah. It is great.
Okay, CLI report, Mr. Wentz.
Okay, we met last Monday. Sorry. COI 21, we met last Monday, October 15th at IU headquarters, and were introduced to a new board member from East Penn School District, Mrs. Alyssa Bowman. The meeting consisted of a presentation on the Cardinal-Lehigh Special Needs Children's Foundation, and we were informed that the COIU employees donated through a payroll deduction a total of $13,496 to the foundation. The next scheduled meeting is set for Monday, November 19th. So,
Thank you, Mr. Wentz. Buildings and grounds, Mr. Holland.
Yes, we met on October the 9th, and on our old business, we discussed middle school press box and the tennis courts, and there's really no update at all, excuse me, for either one. I will say this, football season's over, unfortunately for the middle school, I believe after tonight or next week, so they will not be seeing a press box again this year. Also, under the asset list, the information's still being, it's ongoing, it's still being gathered. New doors at the high school, That was discussed already this past spring, that we had issues with some of the doors, not being able to lock them and that. And so are they replaced now? They're all in place, so thank you very much that they're replaced. Middle school, we have a generator that is making a noise. And usually when they make noise, that sounds like possibly spending monies. So anyway, Mr. Spots feels that we're gonna get a quote in the spring, and hopefully that it will last that long, and then in the summer, we'll replace it if need be. Elementary, gymnasium has been sanded, and I believe Mr. Cleaver and I, when we talked last week, we thought this week they would be starting on the floor itself.
Yes, that is correct. Actually, they're going to be doing the stage first, so they'll be able to get access to the stage, because of course it'll be much shorter time, because no line painting, just waxing, or staining it, and then we'll get down to the stage.
Okay, and mats and entrance carpets were installed at the elementary center, so that'll help make it a little easier for the people to clean and such. New business, we discussed several concerns about the grounds, and I will say they're working on it. There's a lot of dirt and trash around from when the buildings were being made, and I did see quite an improvement in 1 week. And that would be our report. If there's anything else?
I just wanted to add one thing for buildings and grounds. The worst meeting of the year we had to have last week, and that is the plan for snow removal. I always say that's the worst meeting we have to be with our crew with, but we do have a plan in place, and hopefully, our plan will work. But it's one of those meetings that we have to sit every year, and I cringe every time, because that means that stuff's coming eventually. So we did have that meeting with the crew to get a plan for snow removal in place.
Excuse me, see, is the dirt you're talking about, so they're moving back here behind the building, what are they working on back there?
Right back here,
Yeah, they started moving on the
the
dirt.
dirt pile, it's slowly moving. That's
Where
all.
are they putting it, or are they just leveling it out, or spreading it around?
That's throughout the district, throughout the grounds, on, the district grounds, and moving it to different areas that it's needed, yes.
Can you give us a report on the, was it a fan failure or something for the air conditioning in the new elementary center? Just infant mortality, or
I did not know nothing about that.
they had a failure in the elementary center? I think Mr. Frank was talking about a fan.
Well, they thought it was a fan, but apparently they think it was something electrical, because they replaced the fan and still had the issue. So, but that's been since addressed.
So what was the result? Warranty, or?
Oh yeah, it's everything's under warranty. Yep.
But it was an electrical failure of the air conditioning unit?
It was something that going in to direct the fan for temperature control, was what I was told. But it was, because they actually replaced it, and that fan didn't work either. And then they tested the fan at the shop to make sure it was coming, and by that time they realized it was something that was electrical and not.
So we're out for maybe a week or so?
Right, well, yeah, everything was fine then, yep.
Thank you.
Academic Affairs will be meeting on Wednesday, November 14th. Mr. Kraus, LTRC report, please.
Thank you. The Shine Lights On celebration will be hosted by the Jim Thorpe School District this Thursday, October 25th. They're expecting over 400 community members, legislators, and participants. Others across the Commonwealth and nation will also celebrate after-school programs during the 18th annual nationwide rally for these programs that keep our kids safe, inspire them to learn, and help working families. LTRIC's Shine program is truly a shining example of what after-school programs can be, as well as the difference it can make for children and families. The Shine STEM ecosystem is a result of a grassroots initiative that began in 2004. The heart of the ecosystem is the Shine After School program, which has cultivated partnerships reaching every facet of communities. And secondly, online learning is LTRIC's second largest site, which would be in addition to their main campus. And continued growth is projected in the enrollment management plan 2018 through 2022. LTRIC contracted with Campos research and strategy to determine whether enrollment goals can be achieved. The overarching objective of the study was to verify whether L-Tri-C's goals for online learning is realistic with new online academic programming given the population, enrollment, and workforce development trends. The final report received by L-Tri-C is a culmination of more than 2 months of secondary research conducted. It indicates that L-Tri-C's goals are realistic. And that's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Policy Committee report. The Policy Committee did not meet. The meeting was held for the handbook review, which was back on October 3rd. Athletic Committee report. Mr. Went, the next policy meeting will be in December. Athletic Committee report, Mr. Wentz.
Okay, thank you. First of all, it's sad to report that longtime football announcer and dedicated Lehigh Indian fan, Reds O'Donnell, passed away today. He will be missed greatly by his family and many friends. On a lighter note, Lehigh has qualified for district play football, volleyball, and most notably the field hockey team, who is ranked #1 in districts by their virtue of their 2-1 win over Moravian Academy. We wish the best of luck to all our student athletes, and with the new stadium, we again will be hosting league, district, and possibly again state playoffs in football, which not only benefits our school but also the community, the gas stations, restaurants, and other facilities used by incoming fans from away schools. The next scheduled meeting will possibly be held in January, following the December reorganization meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Wentz. Ms. Mahala.
Given the news, why don't we move that we send condolences to the family as a board? You want to do that in,
Yeah, we're going to do
in business?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great idea. Reds was the voice of Lehigh football for quite a while.
Yes.
Wellness Committee, Ms. Mahala. Thank you.
I've asked Mr. Tack to take it because that was a big lecture conference and he was there, so I've asked him to go ahead to take over for me.
Very briefly, excuse me, the menus were approved, again, that we look for the month of November coming up. We also met with our backpack buddies, and we're looking at that. Hopefully we'll get that started either November, December at the latest. And the lunches, the increase in participation for both breakfast and lunches has gone up. And I know Lauren was going to be meeting with the principals, and we're looking for our YAC committees, which are our Youth Advisory Councils. So they do that for all levels with elementary, middle, and high school, where they'll sit down with the students and with Lauren and principals and discuss the different menus and options and get some input from the kids. And our next meeting then will be on Tuesday, November 20th. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Pack. Okay, we'll move on to approval of minutes. We need a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the September 17th, 2018 regular meeting. Closure White.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz.
Second.
Mr. Vanelli. Comments? All those in favor?
Sure, comment. I didn't get a chance to review the video and the audio that we didn't get till the minutes, or I guess came out on Thursday. So I think if we got those minutes out earlier so that we can actually have a chance to review them, there's 70 pages of dictation, basically, I guess is what you're correcting. And I've noticed that we've had failures in the past, and I'd like to document those mistakes prior to accepting the minutes. I think that the time is too short for us to do that.
Any further comments? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as written, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Motion passes. Motion and a second needed to approve the Lehigh Mary High School and Lehigh Mary Middle School activity funds for September 2018.
So moved.
Mr. Finelli,
Second.
Mr. Yancer. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the payment of bills, general fund, benefits, payroll, debit card, capital projects, and food service fund for a total of $5,337,803.75.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz? Mr. Holland? Questions?
Again, this documentation showed up on Thursday. Mr. Fleck was out of town. I tried reviewing all the bills. I was able to collect the data today, but we did not have the time to review them. I think that I would assume, since I'm very aggressive at this, to get as much as possible, that we should consider that we give the board a chance to review the bills prior to our duty to pay the bills. I trust Mr. Yancey took the time to find it, is that correct? Yes?
Again,
As our
month
treasurer.
after month, I
Yeah.
have reviewed the bills to my satisfaction. I don't approve and review the bills for anyone else's satisfaction.
Okay, and then Mr. Filer, I've asked this several times, but it's my understanding that individual board members are individually responsible for their duty to make sure that the bills being paid are accurate, and if there's any potential legal liability or criminal culpability for a board or any of its members, if a majority of the board votes to approve expenditures without sufficient details or information to make an informed decision, and if so, what are the details and possible liability or culpability? And I also asked if there was a possible liability or culpability of the board. Could a dissenting member shield himself from such liability or culpability by his recorded dissenting vote? And in the past, I haven't found any law that you have found that says we are shielded from that, but I have found many laws that says we are not shielded and we are individually responsible. Is that correct?
I don't know what you found, so.
Do you know of any laws that makes an individual board member individually responsible for paying bills that may or may not be available through the taxpayer system, that we're responsible for? If we pay a bill that's not authorized.
You're allowed, sorry. Again, Mr. Bradley, you're allowed to rely on your professionals and the opinions of others in making your informed decision. Now, if you want to believe that statute requires you to read through every single bill, that's your interpretation and that's fine. My understanding is that the rest of the board is allowed to rely on professionals' opinions and make their decisions based off of that. So,
Does the surcharge and accountability of officials for misuse of public funds apply to individual school board members or just municipal officers?
doesn't that require it to be knowingly or willfully?
Yeah.
So if they're relying on
Yes.
if they're relying on professionals, they're not knowingly or willfully violating that rule.
So they're shielding themselves by blindly rubber stamping the professional inside the district and not providing that oversight to the district.
They're relying on professional, that's why you have professionals, Bradley, that's why you hire us.
I agree, but there's also responsibility as a board member to oversee that professional, to make sure that, protect him. He might make a mistake, or she might make a mistake. That's our job, right?
I'm sorry, I don't know what the question was there.
Does the surcharge apply to board members the same way it does to other municipal members?
I believe it does, yes. But again, you have to be knowingly and willingly violating it.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All those in favor of paying the bills signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Motion C. Need a motion and a second to approve payments on the following projects from the corresponding construction accounts for a total of $887,289.26. Elementary Center, Advantage Engineers, CSI, J.R. Reynolds, JBM Mechanical, and Lobar Incorporated. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bradley? Questions? All those in favor signify signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the following reports: budget and revenue report, treasurer's reports, general fund, capital reserve, capital projects, and food service fund. Need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Mr. Snelling?
Second.
Mr. Wentz? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the exemptions from the per capita and/or occupational tax per the attached list.
So moved.
Mr. Yancer?
Second.
Mr. Pinelli?
Excuse me, Mr. Stern, was this packet placed for the benefit of the public prior to the meeting this time? I didn't see
I
that.
forgot to bring it out.
Just check.
It's
Okay.
been here and it's listed that it's here, but I totally forgot. to
Yeah, I
bring
didn't
it
see
out.
it. I didn't know.
Do you want me to grab them now?
I can leave mine in there, I think. 'cause
I do have them, I just didn't bring them out.
I just thought it was unfair that they didn't get a chance to review it prior to making their comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I had them sitting out since Friday and I put that on the web, but I did not bring them out to the table yet.
And today, I don't think everyone come here to be.
No, I didn't.
Today, no one's come here to view the meeting prior to the meeting.
I did.
Say it again?
Today, no one's come here requested to view them prior to the meeting either, just as an.
It's a requirement for us to put them there.
I know, but no one has come. Okay, we understand that, again, but no one has made.
But they
that
are
effort to
right.
come here.
I can get them.
No, that's fine. I'll put them out.
Okay, I have a question, Missy. Is there some way that you can get these paperwork out to us earlier on packets?
The only concern with we having meetings on Monday and Tuesday, and we get a lot of information last minute, and we're putting stuff on the agenda last minute because of especially hires and those type of things. And so the longer we can hold on, the more likely we can get those hires on last minute. And also it allows our business office a little bit more time to get all the bills paid, the payment of bills and everything out as well.
I believe they can just be published. When they publish them to us, we should be able to put them on the line because they're part of an agenda, they're part of the minutes, and therefore they're part of our policy to provide to the public. Can't we just release the entire packet at that time? Transparency team, you know.
Yeah, have a motion and a second. All those in favor? signify
I'm
by-
sorry, did I get an answer to that or not? Why can't we put that information?
Doesn't it have to be approved before being published?
No, not at all.
I make hard copies of them, 2 sets of hard
I
copies.
understand, and they're
Right.
published to the people at the meeting,
People
but
can
for
have
them to attend the meeting, to make valid input, stakeholder input, which we're supposed to be asking, when it gets published on the Thursday before the meeting, we can give it to our constituents so they can help us with this short amount of time in which to review it. We have 1,000 eyes for free, keeping an eye on our own district. It's a beautiful thing. That's the benefit of a community school.
If that's the wishes, I mean, I'm sure we can do something. I'm trying to think, Mr. Fleck, if there's anything for redaction purposes with some of the taxes and those type of things, because
That's
people.
actual bills, but what we give to the board is the list of vendors and the amounts paid, so that's no problem. The bill itself has to go through a redaction, because
You give it to them Monday night, so you're just giving it to them on Thursday and giving them a chance to review that information so they can be better citizens, helping us do our jobs, because we work for them.
It's similar to what you're putting together for us anyway.
Right, so the entire packet I would have to upload.
Correct.
Okay.
And maintain and leave it on the district's website so people know.
As long as it's legal, I
We do it by Friday. Is it okay if we get it on there by Friday? Just because that's when we get a lot of.
Anything's better than Monday night at the meeting for the 20 people that should attend.
I can do that.
Especially if you're live streaming it, because now everybody can keep an eye on what's there.
Thank you, Ms. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstained? Need a motion and a second to refund the general fund for the following. Real estate tax for 2018 in the amount of $105.58 for Henry and Faust. Occupational tax for the year 2017 in the amount of $125 to Shirley Kresge. an occupational tax for the year 2017 in the amount of $125 to Terry White. And I need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz?
Second.
Mr. Holland? Questions?
Does this vote require a a 6-person passing because we're moving money from a fund to another fund?
Refunding.
I know, but
It's not.
pulling money from that fund and the next two. I'm wondering, do we need a 6-person authority to make that movement of money?
No, it's not moving from one fund. When we talk one fund, we're talking general fund to food service, general fund to capital reserve or capital projects, not general fund to pay a bill or refund to a client or a vendor.
So
So it's not moving one fund to another.
that's what takes 6 people to move it from one fund to another.
Correct.
But you're not moving it from the general fund to a checking account and then from the checking account to the person?
That's not a fund, that's a checking account.
Doesn't count that way. So you're basically pulling it from a general fund,
General.
putting it into your access, and then pulling it from there.
Right, so when that 6-person rules, general fund to any other fund, which is a governmental fund, like, food service fund or the capital reserve fund or capital projects fund.
Thank you.
Okay.
So just remind, the question wasn't on motion F though, that was just a general question.
Well, for motion F, but it ends up being general because,
Well,
but
yeah,
it doesn't apply.
last meeting you requested that
That's a-
everything on here that has to do with money, where's that money coming from?
And where's it going?
So that's where it's a general fund,
Correct.
where the money's coming out of, so
So
that's
we
why it's
know.
on there.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of the refund, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. There's a motion and a second to approve from the general fund occupational tax assessment changes for the attached list. There's a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Holland, Bradley. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to accept the donation to the general fund of $7,500 from Lehigh Fire Company No. 1 Incorporated to the Lehighton Area School District to be used for safety equipment across all sports. Need a motion and a second, please. Mr. Wentz?
Second.
Mr. Yancer? Comments? First of all, I'd like to thank the fire company for their generous donation to help our athletics and support safety throughout all the participants of our different programs for extracurricular sports activities.
I also want to note that per board's direction, whenever you accept donation, we will send out a thank you letter from the school board.
Thank you. Any further comments? All those in favor of accepting, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to accept the donation to the general fund of $100 from the Orioles for the No Bad Attendance Program at Apollo Farms in Palmerton, Pennsylvania.
So moved.
Mr. Holland?
Second.
Mr. Belts? Questions, comments? Again, thank you very much to the Orioles for supporting this program. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to accept the donation to the general fund of $220 from Griff's Ale House and Grill to the Title I Reading Program at the Lehighton Area Elementary Center. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Bradley?
Second.
Ms. Spinelli? Any questions, comments? Again, I'd like to thank the Griff's Ale House in supporting the Title I Reading Program for our elementary students. And since it's a full school, it will benefit every student in the elementary center. Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second that in between regular school board meetings, the board president shall have the authority to authorize the taking of appeals to any decision or opinion and/or authorize answers or other responsive pleading be filed, subject to ratification of the board at its next regularly scheduled meeting. In the event not ratified, the solicitor is directed to withdraw the appeal or responsive pleading funding through the general fund. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz,
Second.
Ms. Spinelli. Comments?
Does this board authority creating a new policy or procedure require 6 votes?
You'd be authorizing us to spend money, so then my opinion would be yes. And if I can address Mrs. Bowe's comments from earlier, she wanted to know why this was filed. She was correct. It is because with the holidays coming up and snow days, it tends to be that board might not meet within 60 days. And in general, most of our response pleadings are due within 30. Some are due as short as 15, and I think we've had one right to know request where we were given 9 days to file an answer from the Office of Open Records. If we don't have authority to go forward with it, then we lose by default. Now, the special meetings,
Well, no, 2 things. You lose what by default?
are an option to answer, and depending on what the opinion or decision is that's being filed, whatever it was a request for in the complaint.
So someone asks for a right to know. The right to know is either decided by our right to know officer whether to give them the information or not give them the information. She's been trained to give them the information or not give them the information or redact what's needed. And then in the event that the requester does not get the information that they were thinking, they appeal to the Office of Open Records, which is the state, and you have plenty of time, 30 days to file the information and then another 30 days. So when does this become such an emergency in that process that you were fearing that you might lose the opportunity to appeal? So much so that you're going to give an individual person full authority to work in connection with our solicitor to spend money, and then in the event that he made a mistake, that we should have maybe not fought the state's Office of Open Records final determination, and then spend it a second time to withdraw.
Okay, first, for most cases, the withdrawal, it's a single piece of paper, so you're not looking at extensive litigation costs there.
But the first thing you did before the withdrawal, that would have been dollars spent. And then you withdraw it very cheaply, I agree. But you had to spend it to start, and there's no taking that money back. So all the money that the solicitor, and I believe, let's make sure we're clear, the solicitor wrote this motion. Can we get that on the record, please, Mr. Stern?
The solicitor wrote up the recommendation of, the concern that I have for different delays and seeing the information that's coming across in the quick turnaround with days, knowing that if we don't have, a possible board meeting, that if we miss a deadline, what is our, what is our course, what can we do to?
Have we ever missed a deadline? Or you got close? Or had an executive session that we couldn't have it?
With the most recently complaints that we've never had to address before, the ones that are pretty much filed by yourself, I don't think we've ever had that experience. Just saying I'm concerned because since I've been in this position and other positions, I've never dealt with so many right-to-know issues at the cost of the taxpayers, unfortunately, and I just want to make sure that we can do our due diligence and make all those deadlines. And so I am concerned that if we don't have a meeting or a possible meeting that is, canceled because of snow or what have you, that, we could be putting ourselves at risk. So yes, the solicitor did write the motion due to the concern that I had for time, yes.
But at the same time, you're talking about blocking the right to know request.
No, I'm talking about the nonsense that's being filed at the cost of our taxpayers. So I'm not talking about blocking any right to know request that, we feel is legal obligated.
If we're legal to provide the information to the public, and they ask for it, why aren't we just giving it to them?
again, Mr. Bradley, I think we're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this situation.
It's been known across the state that many solicitors are using the right to know law to incur significant district expenses, only to find out that they either lose or get, like Mr. Feiler said, pull the paper after the money has been spent. You're closing the door after the cattle are gone.
I'm trying to keep our district, our students, and our staff's personnel information safe.
And the right to know law already discusses that, and you have a right to know officer that decides that.
Would another example of this be one board member filing a lawsuit against other board members and our solicitor reviewing the legal actions of that course?
I would say yes, that is the case, and I can say that the cost that we've been incurring has been almost double than average of what we have in the past, and it is due to right to know requests and information being requested. And on top of that, the even bigger concern I have is the loss of really some staff members' time trying to collect all this information. Because yes, the right to know officer can absolutely go through it, but we don't just have a right to know officer. We have an individual who has other job requirements. And so everyone is feeling a little overwhelmed, and we're trying to work together with this. But not only the financial piece is an issue, but really the unwritten piece of the amount of time that people are spending on this, which is taking away from other responsibilities that they may or may not have.
So I pulled the year's worth of right to know requests, and then we did the time study, and it's several hours at best. The question I have to ask is, why are you spending so much solicitor money blocking the transparency rather than embracing it as written in the law to give the people the information? It is so much less expensive to comply with the law than to restrict and then lose in the state and then fight it again anyway. It doesn't make sense to me why this board or this district is trying to be an obstructionist to the law, which is the right to know law. They have a right to know the information.
There's a lot of information that they have a right to know, but posting it in on the media sites, and the possibility of something being posted that can be viewed a HIPAA violation or a medical issue, or even the fact that we have individuals in our school district who are concerned that it's affecting their job, that they have sent emails concerning the right to know requests, because we have a lot of student information that is shared from administration to staff and parents who trust the administration that we are keeping things confidential. And the concern is that some of those things can be now posted on media websites. And again, I will do what I can to protect the district, the staff, and the students as a whole. And we could sit here all night, Mr. Bradley, and agree to disagree. But at this case, we're just going to have to move forward. And the motion is what it's stated. And again, I'm not expecting you to agree to much of this, but as far as I'm concerned, it is my job to do what I can to keep this district safe.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. All right, okay. Would you like a roll call, Mr. Steiner? I would like a roll call.
Before you elect the king, we definitely want a roll call vote.
Can I make a comment? When we were at this conference, every person that we talked to at the tables, none of them have this problem with transparency like we do.
And they're open about their transparency to the district, correct?
Exactly.
Correct. This is very unique to the Lehighton district, where they're going to try to prevent information to getting to those stakeholders which we service. It is our duty to serve them. Now, of all the right to knows that I have done, which there are many, and the redactions that we're paying for by the district because they fear the redaction. A perfect example was the right to knows for multiple emails of an individual board member. The only thing that was redacted was the password for the board's access to the board packet, which actually can be provided openly without even needing it. But that was the redaction, and we paid our solicitor hundreds of dollars to take out of a right to know. It's a waste to use taxpayers' money to give it directly to a solicitor just to become an obstructionist. And you are correct. I've also checked throughout the state by filing similar right to knows to multiple districts to collect information like superintendent's contracts or the things that I'm looking for to be able to compare our district with others. And it's amazing to watch the responsiveness of many of the districts, that it's almost an instantaneous file, emailed, sent, received, thank you for the data so I can be a better board member. And yet our own district didn't even publish it to our own board members to give it to them prior to us evaluating the district's superintendent.
And again, just to make everyone, because we want to be transparent, and you make it sound like those are the information that you're privy to all those reports. The issue of you requesting my emails, the high school principal's emails, the assistant principal's emails, how does that make you a better board member? Those are the things, that is absolute nonsense. Those are the things that are a concern now by our staff because of the information we share. Mr. Bradley, you're more than welcome to have any contract you want, but don't sit here and make it sound like we're not giving you that information. The things we're talking about are the things that need to protect our kids, nothing else.
You're actually billing board members to collect information that they feel necessary to review motions on the agenda. You're actually billing your board members to collect data prior to them making a decision. Now, as far as your emails, they are public. Larry's emails, they are public. Rita's emails, they're public. And through the review of those emails, we have found not only about private meetings, committee meetings, times and dates that you're preventing the rest of your board from doing their job. It's our job to provide oversight for those people. They require that information, Mr. Cleaver, and it is public. And because it is public, you should also watch what you write. It would help the district if you would know that people are looking over your shoulder. Maybe you'd make different choices, which is also a benefit to them rather than going to court to try to fight the idea that as superintendent of a public school and a government, that those people do not have that right. You should not obstruct that right from those people.
And again, Mr.
That's my opinion.
That's your opinion, and I have no concern.
And the opinion of the State of Open Records, and the opinion of the Pennsylvania School Board Association, and the opinion of the Pennsylvania School Code.
Yes. And those are the only.
And many other districts, that is, Gail just found out, are very transparent.
Absolutely they are. When it could legally happen.
And there's no risk to the district for being transparent.
And
None.
again, I go back to the email requests of staff members, which is just, no reason. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on the floor.
Did this go before a policy committee?
No. No, it did not. Again, it was a concern I had, and the solicitor did,
Okay, so I asked once, 2 meetings
But,
ago, public comment.
Again, we had a comment at the beginning on this. I am being,
So I'm shut down now?
I'm being polite and being polite and answer your question. Again.
Prior to taking a vote, I would like to hear your information as a board member to help me do, no, you're not shut down. A board member, can ask any individual, any board member can ask any individual for their advice where it might be pertinent. I find your information as a citizen to be pertinent. Can you please express your information? I find it pertinent.
Well, my question is, why did this not go before a committee? I asked 2 meetings ago about public comment by raising my hand orderly. 5 meetings voted no against transparency that night. Now, this is another policy thing. Not long ago, Ms. Bowman stood up there and said out of courtesy to these policy committees, things should go through them. I think she's now in favor of just going ahead with K, we don't need to go through her committees now.
No, I think I do agree with what Mrs. Bowman said, and I think that's exactly why something like this is on here, because our next policy meeting is not till December, And then we also need 2 readings, so you're looking at February, where I'm more concerned about the immediate months and the snow and stuff coming.
When I requested, when I made it, was told it's going to take 2
Thank you.
or 3 meetings anyway.
Can we not do phone conference calls if the weather's bad?
And again, I don't know,
It's technology available to us, it's a conference call, it's called a go-to-meeting, and
I don't know that we're set up for that. I know, again, your tech.
I've called in the meetings.
Called into here, but if no
Yeah.
one's here, how can we do a conference call?
You're telling me that no one's here in 9 days.
I'm just saying, if it's an emergency or snow day, there could be possibly no one here.
For 9 days.
Just again,
I mean, 9 days is that's probably the fastest, right? Most of them are 30 or 60 days, correct?
sure,
20?
sure, could be 2 days.
For a response?
Everybody's gonna
You mean
throw
you're
numbers
gonna
out
do 2
there.
days for a response for any legal action, Mr.
We're
Cleaver?
just gonna throw numbers, let's throw any number, right?
When would you say that there's 2 days for any legal action, Mr. Feiler? Or is he being facetious?
Temporary restraining orders, preliminary injunctions, domestic disputes.
But nothing to do with this.
Preliminary injunctions.
Okay, got a motion and a
Wait,
second.
hold on, one more. I need some more help. Does anybody else want to help me try to make a decision on this? Because I think not only do we need 6 people to vote on this, but I think that you cannot authorize a board member to take the authority outside of a board meeting by an individual. How are we allowed to go against Pennsylvania school code and give that authority to an individual?
Could you ratify it at the next meeting, and then if you decide not to ratify it, we withdraw?
Yeah, but you're still, prior to that, you're giving an individual board member authority and power and taking it away from the other 8 board members. Isn't there a school code about that, like around the 700 series? Are you familiar with what I'm looking at?
No, I don't know.
Can you please look it up prior to giving it, or can somebody give this board legal advice of how this complies with the Pennsylvania school code, giving an individual authority to spend money and take away the rights and duty of the other 8 members of this board, so that that man can be king of the Heighton board? Whoa, right, I know, that's what we're doing.
I personally feel there's only one person who's vying to be king, and it's not Mr. Stern.
So, again, the motion is on the floor, the second.
Hold on, our school policy, number 900, says you can't do this. (907).
Roll call vote, Mrs. Wagner. Thank you.
Full steam ahead.
Ms. Joy Beers?
No.
Mr. Richard Belz? Mr. David Bradley?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Stephen Holland?
Yes.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik?
No.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Wayne Wentz?
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Yancer? Mr. Larry Stern?
Yes.
All right, so I have a 5, 4.
And it can be determined whether it needed 6 or not at a later date.
Hold on, we have our counsel right here. He already said it needs 6 for spending money. Correct?
I believe that's correct, Mr. Bradley.
Okay, then,
Thank you.
I would still like to move.
I'll get one.
Thank you. Need a motion and a second to approve the employee 1416 and 1074 to attend the annual HASBO conference held at Hershey Convention Center March 5th through 8th, 2019, at a cost not to exceed $3,500. Funding through the business office budget, 2018.
So moved.
2019. Mr. Bradley. Second. Mr. Belts. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Yes. Need a motion and a second to adopt the resolution 1819-05 in support of the resolution of resolution adopted by the Carbon County collection committee in support of current earned income tax collections as defined by Act 32 and in opposition to legislative initiatives to mandate centralized services as recommended by the Finance Committee.
So moved.
Mr. Yancer?
Second.
Mr. Melly?
Can the Finance Committee please explain why they recommended this?
You were at the meeting, correct?
Again, can the Finance Committee please explain why they recommended this for the record?
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
The current system that they're using is working fine, and the state would like to take it over on their end. Many of us have concerns about that. If it's working correctly at the county level, we felt as a finance committee it should continue that way and not give it over to the state. Anybody have a question?
Motion on the floor. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the revised minor subdivision proposal as proposed by Carbon Engineering on behalf of Franklin Township Project Number 18-0013-006, along with utility easement over lot number 2. Lot number 1 is 11.804 acres to be conveyed to Franklin Township, and lot number 2, which is 13.667 acres, to remain with the property of the Lehigh Area School District. Need a motion and a second.
I got a question.
This
is- Wait, we need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ms. Maloney.
Okay, is
Question?
this considered a real estate transaction? Will we need 6 votes?
Yep.
This is just, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just the approval of the way it is listed for the subdivision, for them to move forward with it. This isn't officially giving it to them at that, if I'm correct.
This is the start of it all.
Right, that is.
It's the start of it.
Yes.
Yeah, if it's
So
not,
this needs 6 votes,
only, no, we're not transferring the property.
but you are giving them the right to use property.
No, we're giving them the right to subdivide it with this current breakout for the
But
lot one
that's-
and lot 2.
That easement was not in our first discussion.
The easement was always in there, yes.
Was it the
Wasn't.
original drawing?
No, the original was to give them the property that they were currently leasing. That's what the motion was originally. The plans show the easement. I think you can do it if you get rid of the easement. I just don't think you can do it with an easement,
I think that should be a
because that's additional property.
I believe the first one that we had that we talked about, which was the discussion last month's board meeting, did also have the easement listed, yes it did.
But before we go forward, do we have a motion and a second, correct?
Yes.
And we have a determination that we do not need 6, we need 5? Is that correct?
I'm gonna go to him for that.
Because we're not transferring the property right now.
So we need 6, okay, so we only need 5.
We need 5.
Perfect. And then the question is, the original motion that this is stemming from was this board's approval to give Franklin Township the property they were leasing as defined by the metes and bounds of their lease.
Mr.
Well, there
President,
you
that
go.
was not what we agreed to. You keep saying that, that's what you said. We agreed to let Franklin Township have a subdivision, pay for a subdivision to be developed, and we would agree or not agree. They did the subdivision, this is what they're asking for. What you had in your head at prior meetings doesn't matter anymore. This is the subdivision, this is what's on vote.
I don't think
But-
we had,
but, no.
I don't think we had the easement on the past subdivision.
Correct, and none of that was
It was not
there.
there.
And the motion, if we could please, Melissa, can you please pull up the original motion to transfer the property?
Months ago, the easement was on the original draft of the.
I understand what you're thinking,
No,
Can you please
that's,
pull
no,
up the
you're
original motion?
taking it to where you want it to go. The easement was
from
part
July?
of the original,
One more time, can we please, as a
no,
board,
not the original
prior-
lease, I'm not talking about the
Not the
original lease. I
lease.
know you're
Yes,
talking
you
about
are.
that. What I'm talking about is the proposal from Franklin Township to subdivide the properties and get an easement to run sanitary facilities down to Fairland Road. You can vote yes, or you can vote no.
my question is,
Does it need six
Prior-
votes?
well, no, it only needs 5 except if you do one more thing according to Mr. Feiler, correct? We already figured that out. The question is, can you please pull up the motion that is referred to by this motion and the transfer of the property per the lease that was given to the school? We want to give them the property that they were leasing. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm under the impression that when Mr. Cleaver tried adding the soccer fields, it would have reduced the value of the building. Now, since then, I think that, is that still our belief that if we give soccer fields, the building gets reduced? Rita, is that?
It's not, it never was my belief. It's part of the words you like to put in everyone else's mouth, but it never was my belief. I want to give Franklin Township what they need to carry on. If they need an easement, and of course, if they want to put public bathroom facilities up there, they're going to need that. I'm not taking that away from them. As Mr. Stern said, you vote yes, you vote no, I don't really care. But this is what they're asking for, and this is what's on the table now. Yes or no?
So you're, hold on, you're saying the soccer fields?
No, it's not.
Don't-
Did you look at the picture?
I'm asking, I looked at the picture, that's
Okay.
why I was concerned that it doesn't match the meets and bounds that were originally done, so therefore you're right.
Keep going back to that. That's not what we're doing here.
Can we please pull up the
We don't,
motion?
we don't
And
have.
secondly,
Can we just call a question at
Call
this
the question,
point?
thank you very much.
I
Roll
think
call
it
vote,
should take
Mrs.
6
Wagner.
votes. Because it's
Mrs.
really.
Wagner, roll call vote.
Joy, do you agree with me?
Just roll call.
and Rita, do you really think the soccer fields were not?
Just roll call vote.
Whose idea was it about the soccer fields then, Rita? Was it, if it wasn't yours?
We're voting.
I understand that. Whose idea was it if it wasn't yours?
Mr.
In reference to the soccer fields?
It was
I'm not
Mr.
having this discussion with you, David, because you just turn around.
Right.
Everything everybody says, and I'm done with that. I called the question. Please, Missy, can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Richard Belz?
Yes.
Mr. David Bradley?
Sure.
Mr. Stephen Holland?
Yes.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik?
Yes.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli?
Yes.
Mr. Wayne Wentz?
Yes.
Mr. Andrew Yenser?
Yes.
Ms. Joy Beers?
Abstain.
Mr. Larry Stern?
Yes.
So I have 8 yes, 1 abstention, motion passes.
And just for clarification purposes, Mr. Bradley, that was my recommendation for soccer fields, and even with this, I'm glad we're still moving forward. I still wish the soccer fields were included for the kids of Franklin Township.
Do you think it'll reduce the price of the building? How about you, Rita? Do you think
That
it'll
wasn't
reduce the price of the
Mr. Bradley, it wasn't your question.
I have explained before, I am not a commercial, I was not a commercial real estate agent. I am not saying anything. I defer to a professional.
And
Not you.
Okay, but any professional give you advice to the use of the soccer fields at the building?
No, because I didn't ask.
Okay. Did anyone offer you information? Hold on, I'm asking a question. Did anyone offer you information about the soccer fields in reference to the building?
No.
Okay, so I'd like to move forward for a second. I did a right to know for Rita Spinelli's emails, and she wrote an email to Larry Stern, Jonathan Cleaver, and William Schwab on August 20th of 2018 at 3:47 p.m. And she said to those people specifically, and not our board, just FYI, I received a call from a real estate agent friend, and their office has been getting calls asking about Franklin. The buyer is Lehigh Valley Hospital, not St. Luke's. They are only interested if the soccer fields are part of the purchase. I am only passing this along as a heads up because the agent may be there at the next meeting asking what our plans are. Now, I find that a complete contradiction to what just occurred. Am I mistaken?
Yes, you are mistaken. I told them that were expecting a call. I did not ask her, are they going to pay more if the soccer fields are there? She just said they weren't interested in it if it wasn't there.
And Mr. Bradley, also, I know In the past, the board did approve myself and Mr. Flake to take authority for those two buildings, and that is probably why she relayed that information to me, and that is why we reached out to them and contacted them. And since then, we've had several people tour and ask requests to view those properties. So that is probably why that email was sent on such and such a date, because she was following a motion that was passed by this board. But you may have forgot that.
On the personnel. Need a motion and a second to approve the attached list of candidates for the 2018-2019 substitute list pending clearances funding through the general fund.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz? Mr. Yancer? Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Need a motion and a second to approve the athletic hires as recommended by the athletic committee and extracurricular hires for the 2018-2019 school year, funding through the general fund. Motion and a second. Mr. Wentz? Mr. Holland? Questions?
Question,
Yes, sir.
could we not have their listing as to what their salaries would be?
Yes. Because it's pending the teacher's contract. Yep. It's in the contract, but we'll just list them what it is.
That would be nice.
Yep.
Oh, the stipends for their positions.
So just the stipends behind.
Well, do you want?
Why do you not move that public?
We wanted, the teacher's contracts are public, so they would be able to see that. But do you want them on do you want them on the attachments?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Holland. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the recommendation to hire the following employees in accordance with the respective contracts funding through the general fund. There's an addendum to this particular motion. Item number 3 is being removed. So it's 1, 2, and number 4. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Yancer?
Second.
Mr. Holland?
Yes.
Thank you.
Were any of these part of that cleaning of the tables adventure that was talked about in the wellness, was it, the wellness meeting?
She's replacing, Sandra Sterling is replacing someone who has left us, so no.
Yes. I don't believe it. And I'm
And the
not sure
lunchtime
what your...
aides, and the lunchtime aides is replacing someone who left us,
Okay.
and the part-time paraprofessional is someone who left us.
Okay, so no new positions,
None of these, no.
correct? And if any new positions occur, that would be created by the board, correct?
If they're new positions, that doesn't mean that we can't take a current position and move the time.
Say that again.
If
For a
it's
new hire, you're creating a new position, or you're not creating a new position?
Well, it may not be a new position if we have a lot amount of people in that position. If we decide to move one of them to a different time, that's not creating a new position. If you shift.
Yeah, if you're using the same personnel that you currently have for the same job.
Well, no, if someone resigns and then we hire someone and just that person we're hiring is now going to start at a different time, that's not creating a new job. A new job will require...
Say that again. So you're saying if you take somebody that has a job and they resign or whatever, you can then hire another person to put in that place, even if that job doesn't exist, and you're going to create a new job at a new time for that other person?
Again, it's a reassignment of a position.
A reassignment to a new time and a new position.
It wouldn't be a new position. A new position would require a new job description.
So you're using an old job description under a new
Currently,
time?
it may not be old.
So a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to accept the resignation of the following employees. Dina Sersky, Christina Bravo, Doris Reed, Christy Zimmerman, and Joseph Ellis. Mr. Holland.
Second.
Mr. Bradley.
Did we collect any data from these resignations into their rationale, reasons, or do an exit interview?
We do have some data for them, which I don't want to repeat, because some of it is personnel and health related. But as far as the other ones, they are offered an exit interview. So, but we have had several individuals who did take advantage of an exit interview. So there's.
And when are you going to share that information with the board?
When I have more than one.
When you have more than one what?
There's not a lot of data when there's only one person who agrees.
Still, in an executive session.
Oh, yeah.
Next executive session.
Sure.
Thank you.
There's not a lot of data though with one person in comparison.
One's more than zero.
Is there a motion and a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the following professional employees for tenure. Kayla Andrew, school nurse, hired 8/8/15. Joy Smith, elementary teacher, hired 9/21/15. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Bradley. Questions, concerns? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the following request for pre-approval of courses and programs of study for continuing education funding through the general fund. Items 1 through 10.
So moved.
Mr. Bradley.
Second?
Mr. Yancer. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to acknowledge FMLA leave for the following employee not to exceed 12 weeks. Employee number 527.
So moved.
Mr. Yancer. Mr. Holland. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Miscellaneous. I'll take items 1 through 20 as a consent agenda item. Need a motion and a second to approve the following school enrichment journeys, 1 through 20. Funding is listed in parentheses of where the monies are coming from to support these enrichment journeys.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Miller? Questions?
Yeah, I just want to make one comment. It says school van facilities fund, it's actually general fund facilities budget. A couple of places there. The gas for the vans comes out of the facilities budget.
It says, sorry, Brian, can you restate that?
It should say general fund facilities budget.
Okay. It's a subcategory of the general fund.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you for adding this information to the school journey request. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve early graduation in January 2019 for the following students: 57637, 53320, 53153, 56185, 54620, 53172, and 56268.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz?
Second.
Mr. Bradley? Any questions or comments? Kudos to those students for getting the requirements in ahead of time and moving on with their future endeavors. Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
I do. I'm reading.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Programs. I'd like to take that as an agenda item, consent agenda item for agenda item A under programs, 1 through 29. I need a motion and a second to approve the use of school property for items 1 through 29. Thank you, Mr. Yancer.
Second.
Ms. Manelli. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the second reading of the and adoption of the following Manhattan Area School District policies: number 806, child abuse; number 918, Title I, parent and family engagement. Mr. Wentz. Mr. Holland. Questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve the 2018-2019 Title I Professional Services Agreement between the Hayden Area School District and the school pool IU number 29.
So moved.
Mr. Wentz.
Second.
Mr. Valley. I'd just like a little further, maybe the easier synopsis of what that is. I read the document. Is that
What it is.
Is it for services that we can't handle through CLIU?
No, what happened, right, because the students, St. Peter Paul closed, students were then going to St. Joe's and Jim. St. Joe's closed, now they're going up to St. Jerome's, which is Mockbrook, which is Schuylkill County.
Okay.
So we had to get another one through Schuylkill County, IU 29.
Okay, thank you very much for the clarification, Mr. Tack. Any further comments? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Need a motion and a second to approve an affiliation agreement between the Hayden Area School District and Bloomsburg University for the purpose of providing experiential learning and for education students. So in short, it's student teaching.
Yes. So moved.
Second.
Bradley. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You guys have it. I need a motion and a second to approve an affiliation agreement between the Hayden Area School District and St. Joseph's University for the purpose of providing experiential learning for education students. Need a motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Mr. Benelli?
Second.
Mr. Answer? Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Old business, sale of Franklin and Shell David.
Yes, just again, just to bring it up, we did have several people have since requested tours of Franklin, more on Franklin than Shell David. You may have seen the for sale signs we did post on the marquees outside the buildings. We did have several people since then say they saw that on the marquees and requested to see the buildings. But at this time, again, we have the RFPs that are out there, and Mr. Fleck, I'm not aware of any being received. Just
Yeah, the last thing I heard is they were waiting to see what is going to be the actual acreage of Franklin. Are they, is the fields included, not included? They're basically call them up when we have a decision on what goes and what stays.
Where are the potential buyers from geographically?
Some are local, there are some from the Allentown, and I know one of the Wilkes-Barre area.
I had one from Nazareth and one from Plymouth Meeting.
So the advertising's working, or where are they getting the information from?
One from Plymouth Meeting was contracting up this way and installed a sign on Shell David. The one from Nazareth, I think they were on LoopNet. LoopNet, it's free for us to put on there, but the realtors and commercial realtors just have to pay to get on that site, so they have a subscription service.
I'd like to make a motion that this board spends a couple dollars and actually advertises that so that people in the public can see it. Currently, the LoopNet only is available to whom?
Commercial subscribers, real estate agents that subscribe to it.
I think we should cast the wider net, even if you put it on eBay.
Then, again, what is our response to them when they ask what the acreage is? If that's the most common question, maybe we should have a motion to move forward with that approval and get movement that is.
JJ, you don't need to slam that door. So what you just need to do is you.
Mr. Bradley, please don't tell me what I need and need not to do, thank you.
Well, you're trying to push through against your board, it's leverage. You don't need to use that leverage as a function of trying to advertise a meeting.
That's your opinion.
Correct.
Again, it's not leverage, it's the fact that we just even mentioned that many of them are waiting to hear exactly what the acreage would be, and so the main question, we still don't have an answer to. So why do we spend taxpayer money to advertise for something when the most common question we can't answer?
We've already determined from Rita's email that the soccer fields, as being part of the purchase, adds interest to those schools and adds their values. Therefore, I think you just advertise it as if you're gonna advertise, and you're concerned, since we already did on LoopNet, is use the LoopNet ad that we already have and put it to a wider net. No changes needed, no approvals, just casting a wider net. And if you want acreage, I would put it in as the building currently, which is the full Franklin property minus the meets and bounds of the lease that we were gonna give to that school, to the Franklin Township.
I would
If
not,
you want, in my
That's your
opinion.
opinion, and we haven't voted on
I would
that.
not share information with the potential buyer willing to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, an answer that I really don't have a positive feel for. So again, I'm not going to share or offer that false information.
Okay, let me start over. I move, and I would like a second, that we extend the LoopNet advertisement that's already in place to a public site that allows more than just commercial realtors to see the advertisement. All I'm asking, take the LoopNet and make it more public. Can I get a second for the motion to use the LoopNet advertisement and make it more public?
Can we put a cap on what we're gonna spend? I mean,
I'd love that, yeah.
What's the cap?
I'll second it.
How far are you gonna take it?
$500.
Could we also let us know what public site you're recommending? Because I'm sure that if there's one that I recommend, you probably wouldn't agree with it, and then we'd be going back to this again.
That's your opinion, why don't you try, and we'll see.
Again, so you're saying you want to spend
Up to $500 to cast a wider net
on a public site?
on a public site.
Then you're going to give myself and Mr. Flake the okay to decide what.
I will let
that
Mr.
is.
Flake choose the public site. I'm sure we have
Thank you.
information available, correct, Mr. Flake? You I trust.
I'll figure something.
You I trust.
Brian, may I ask a question? Since it seems that some potential bidders have been wanting to wait to hear what the final acreage is, has anyone expressed any concern about the utility easement?
No one's expressed concern about that because it's on the property line, and I think Franklin Township has a, they call it a backhaul that you can't build within so many feet of his property line, so that easement's within that setback.
Okay, great.
So you can build a parking lot over it, but you can't build a building over it with an easement. So that didn't seem to be a concern. The concern was they did not want to get involved in a dispute between the townships and the school district because they read about the papers and all along.
Sure, yeah.
And what was the width of that easement on that paper? And the question is, how close is it?
I think there's like a 35-foot setback.
Correct, and then how close is it to existing structure? That's the whole question.
I think it's like 25-foot or 30-foot easement. Do they give us?
I'm looking right now.
I know, they
Jay, do you
seem
know?
to be concerned
Can you
about the
provide-
easement because they couldn't build it on the property line.
Correct, right.
That's all, they can build a parking lot over it, but they can't build a building.
But can they get electricity to the park, to the lake park?
50 feet, Mr. Bradley.
But can they have, the easement's 50 feet.
Yes.
Will they have room to build and put on electrified lights for a parking lot?
It is
Actually, the people are talking to only care about the footprint of the building, that way they don't have to go through land development.
Correct. But I'm just saying that you don't want to limit yourself, giving an easement that's greater that allows the new potential purchaser to add to the building or add to a parking lot for lighting and other structure.
It is a 50-foot easement that starts 50 feet from the property line, so in all, from the property line farthest to 100 feet.
It's 100 feet, and how far is the building from that line?
From that, the current building, looking at the scope of this, and again, this is just looking at the scale, a 1 inch to 60-foot scale, probably
200 feet? How?
could be less. Could be less.
So your building is currently encroaching on that easement that...
No.
Look at it again.
No, from the end of the easement, so from the 100 feet, the building is approximately another 120 feet from that current easement that they're requesting.
Correct. And if they put a parking lot in there, and they want to build anything on there, garage or whatever, they would not have access to that
That would be
property,
something
correct?
they'd have to discuss. I don't know what their guidelines are for that easement, I mean, I don't have that information.
Do you want to add anything to help this board make a decision, Jay?
Well, the easement was chosen there because of the pavilion, and it's not going to be 50 foot across.
I agree, you don't need to take that much of an easement.
No, it was just.
I just was wondering why you asked for that much.
To move back and forth, and I know there's several trees in the way, the playground, and it's far enough back, and we'd be more than willing to.
Okay, yeah, you can take whatever you get, right?
Well, no, we'd be more than willing to work with whoever we purchase the property, whatever they do.
You're gonna put that in writing?
So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Bradley, second by Ms. Mahler.
Yes.
Is that advertisement?
Yes, to
And how do you-
extend the LoopNet advertisement to a public site that allows more than just commercial realtors, and to spend no more than $500, and Mr. Fite can pick that public site.
And how do we propose to get our stakeholders' opinion on this?
The right thing to do would be for your president to say, I'd like to open the floor to this new motion prior to an act of government, at which point it's his prerogative. If not, he violated the Sunshine Act, because that's the goal of government, is to be open and transparent, at which point you end up in court again. It's
The
obvious.
public that is not here today?
Correct. I do believe firmly,
How do we,
hold on, I do believe firmly that the value to the public by elected officials, which is what you're doing, 90% of this, until we can make these things more transparent, is part of it. And the nice part is, finally, those people on that live stream can finally see their government action, giving an opportunity, hopefully, to at least these people here. And soon we'll have a call-in line, and soon you'll have people show up, because they'll finally be able to be heard, Mr. Answer. And I'm looking forward to that
Make
day.
these motions.
I am looking for that day.
Just like Director.
I got more. I have extra ones too. I got other ones too. That's why they have this thing called new business. It's amazing. And this one was old business.
I don't find it very transparent.
I know, but this one was old business, right? This is old business. We've been trying to do this for 9 months, Mr.
We
Yancey.
haven't been making this motion for 9 months. I don't find
Actually-
it very transparent.
Actually, I believe the last board tried making this motion, right? To be able to advertise that prior to, before we even elected, they tried advertising these buildings for sale at a, what was the meeting you went to, Gail? At the, where Ms. Bowman was, and didn't have the appraisals, and what was that meeting? So either, yes, Mr. Yenser, we're getting better. I look forward
Oh, we're
to it.
getting better, but we're not
Definitely.
transparent.
Yes, we
Mr.
are.
Bradley.
Very transparent.
Mr. Bradley.
Very transparent. If you're gonna block this motion, it is now transparent, and I love it. I'm looking forward to it.
I love it too.
Good.
Springs list is free.
Your opinion.
Hold on, right here. Well, we gotta let Larry do it. Sorry, Larry. New motion, Larry.
Anybody like to speak on this new motion?
Sure. What would it benefit or not benefit the district in advertising at this point, since you don't have all of the facts in place? And I would like to.
It's already been,
I think that was-
that's fine.
Thank you.
Everyone represents you, Mrs. Bowman, so you have the benefit, I see.
Can you give anybody else an opportunity?
Sure, take your turn and I'll take mine.
Mr. Bradley, if you remember my remarks, I try to be very respectful about opening a policy, considering the motions when they're talked about and people having some input. But I also specifically said civil discourse without one or two board members attempting to control while the president resides, without interruptions or unwarranted comments. And you continue to still do that and call people obstructionists and everything else.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's no positive thought. And if you really want to do a positive impact on this community, you would think about that. Mr. Stern, I'd like my answer.
Well, my take on it would be that we still don't have, pending the subdivision, we don't have the proper information to provide to a real estate site to say what the actual acreage and contents of the package we're supposedly going to sell. So again, that makes it difficult for anyone to put in a bid on what they really don't know. I mean, they can come see it, and it will take some time until we get some things finalized. I guess the opportunity would be for people to actually view the facility and say, well, we think this is going to be here and this is going to be there. Now, is that value to those folks or not, to see if they want to do step 2 and wait on what we're going to do with the township or not?
How long would that process take to be able to find those facts of knowing what the board will decide to do on selling the building, plus or minus the stock value?
It depends on the information that we come back from, now that we have this approval to move forward, and how fast the township can do what they need to do to get their documents in order, and then it come back to the board for us to do the final transfer of the property.
Is that a
So
possibility by the next
1
meeting?
month to 2 months?
The next board meeting?
We shoot for the next meeting.
Which is, I think, November 19th? Is that possible?
It is. Thanksgiving week, yes.
Then my suggestion is to hold off until the 19th until you have more specifics with what you want to sell, to advertise, to be able to get the best bang for buck.
It's already being advertised now. We're just expanding the audience of the advertising with this motion. It's
So we're
already,
confusing more people, right?
you're offering more, confusing them, Rita?
Yeah, because they don't know what they're buying.
Are you confused about what's being sold?
I am not confused.
Okay, then I'm sure they're as intelligent as you, and if you advertise it the same as on LoopNet, you will cast a wider net, and I'm sure that they will have an understanding that that building is for sale, and some land is for sale, equal to, or approximately equal to, I believe it's 12 acres? 13.6 acres. 13.6, plus or minus the couple feet.
I'm trying to recognize him, but we need to quiet. Mr. Swanson?
It's on the other end.
Yeah, I know.
So what's the issue with how many acres?
Because it's not finalized. It's a proposal that the township has to.
We had 6 votes to get this far, and now you said more than 6 votes to.
We have more now, but it's still, the official land transfer won't happen until the official subdivision is created by the township.
Well, correct. But
So it's pending, and you could say it's pending court approval in this subdivision.
You have this down to thousandth of an acre. You have this number down to 1,000th of an acre.
I just said that, that's
one way or
what
another what's going to matter to the overall value. I don't understand.
Sure.
If it's off by half an acre, it's not going to affect the value of the property. I don't understand why we need to wait to have the 1,000th acre to advertise.
Right.
I don't.
The only thing that if the board does not decide to move forward with this in Franklin Township after the fact, then, you know, that may be different to the buyer. I mean, we're telling this is
That
what
will be different to the buyer, but I don't think we're going to. I think we're going to go with the base and move forward here.
But are we going through with the easement? Isn't that what's in question here?
At this moment, we have the votes to move forward with the easement,
So it is with the easement then?
I would say we should move forward and advertise this. I don't see a downside to it.
13 plus or minus acres.
Good, there's a motion on the floor. There's to, and a second, a motion by David, and a second, Mr. Riley, and a second by Ms. Mahalik, I believe it is, to extend the advertisement to a public site, not restricted to commercial real estate, or a cost not to exceed $500.
I have a quick question. That 500, is that for each property or for both?
Make it for both. I don't think the advertisement on the internet is all that expensive.
Don't know if it's going to be enough.
That's why I'm like,
I really don't know.
I'll offer it out.
discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay, opposed?
No.
So 7-2.
7-2. New business. I have a motion, I have a item under new business. Mr. Tack, is he still here?
He must have left.
Yes.
Yeah, you want to do that one?
First motion will follow from Mr. Bradley, if you would like to make it concerning Mr. O'Donnell.
Well, I have another new motion first.
Well, let's do Mr. O'Donnell's first, so we don't forget about that one. Okay?
I move that the board recognizes the efforts of volunteers, and the passing of this gentleman should be recognized. Thank you. Second.
Discussion? Being so close to the stadium, my home, the previous stadium, I heard Mr. O'Donnell's voice a lot. A lot, and it was, always, a great job. I think he succeeded.
And he worked for
He
us,
succeeded Mr. Schaefer, right, from that perspective, I believe it was. So.
And he was the attendance
And he was
officer
the
for us
attendance
for
officer
years.
as well, and the announcer, so my condolences go out to the family as well as the district's condolences to them. So I appreciate you making the motion, Mr. Bradley. All those in favor?
Larry.
Comments?
Could I make a suggestion that maybe the new press box be named applicant?
I'd like to make a formal decision that prior to taking that vote, since it was a new motion, you really should let them speak, and he could do his thing.
I did.
Mr. Bradley, okay. He should
You
have.
have to reiterate, you know what?
It's fine.
Everything's fine. You have to be in charge. Byron, what was that? I'm sorry.
Just wanted to name the press box.
So, once we get to the point where the press box comes to fruition up at the middle school, that we propose naming it after Mr. O'Donnell, I think we can probably put that on the record and, maybe do it once it's all together instead of doing it in a fact that it's not there.
It's not a plaque.
Yeah. So it's a great idea. Thank you very much. So Mr. Holland, you can note that so that when that facility comes to fruition, that can be done for Mr. O'Donnell. Okay? Thank you for Byron. That's a great suggestion. So there's still any further comments on Mr. Workman?
Why can't we make it for the stadium press box? That man deserves that. For what he did for the long-term, hey, stop walking, stop talking, remove your hats. That became a legend. I think we should put it in our stadium. The man is a legend. It should go in that stadium.
Can we bring that for discussion at the next athletic committee meeting to have that discussion? Wayne?
And I'll email Mr. Sumner that we brought this up.
Further comments? The original motion is to extend the board condolences for the O'Donnell family. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. I have another item for new business. Mr. Tackett approached me with requesting a board representative to be part of the comprehensive plan. Mr. Cleaver and Mr. Tack's absence, can you?
Right, the comprehensive plan is a plan for the district that we're required to complete, and there's a committee that is on there. We would like someone, representation from the school board to be on on that committee. There will probably be anywhere from 6 to 9 meetings. There will be an additional evening meeting for someone, but we would like to have someone from the board be part of that planning process next week. So if there's any volunteers.
Volunteer.
Thank you. And I will have Mr. Taxon, he's sure email you some of the just upfront information so you can see, what it consists of, just so you have some idea for the first meeting.
Great. I'll reach out to him too and get up to speed.
Okay, thank you. Motions to appoint or anything?
Yeah, I have a motion and a second. I need a motion and a second to appoint Joey to support the comprehensive plan.
So moved. Seconded.
Ms. Mahalik, any further discussion?
Is this committee meeting or this process open to the rest of the board as well?
Yes. The committee the board will be there to ask questions and that, but of course, as you know, the committee will make the recommendations.
Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Any further new business?
I have one, if no one else does. I don't want to overstep the
Mine is not a motion, it's a quick request of Franklin Township. They could put flags out there to show the easement marks and those when they're done there, just so if someone does come out there, we'll be able to give them a visual. And of course, with snow, they may have to be ice fixed, but thank you. Sorry, Mr. Silas. Not a motion.
Brandon?
Anybody else want? Nope, okay. I make a motion to rescind the unlawful official action taken on June 25th of 2018 by board directors Holland, Spinelli, Stern, Wentz, and Yancer to prohibit citizen David Bradley, Sr., from having direct contact with any district employee and bar the same citizen from the Lehighton High School and Administration Building facilities for the time period of June 25th, 2018 through June 25th, 2019. Can I get a second for this motion to rescind the unlawful official action?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Just clarification, if there's a board meeting or something that is board activity at those buildings, that individual is not barred from those buildings, if it's to conduct board business. Thank you.
Any discussion from the floor?
How does that work with students?
It's just high school.
It was a high school or the admin building?
You'd have to address that individual, I can't answer for that.
I have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Bradley, you said it was, you described it unlawful, based on what?
Based on Pennsylvania school code, Pennsylvania state law, and our own school policy.
Was there a legal determination, or is that your interpretation? I'm just asking for the board's evidence, transparency, no.
We can ask Mr. Filer that question. He's the one who can make that determination, or the judge gets to make that determination at the final decision. It's my opinion.
Perfect. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Does Mr. Filer want me to call on that?
There's been no opinion, so I can't make a call on that. He asked if there was any, if it was Mr. Bradley's opinion, or if that was an actual legal decision.
What's your opinion? What? That's the question. What's the legal opinion from you?
The board voted on, the board suspended him,
So they have a right to do that?
as far as I know.
Did you do any research?
No, just as far as you know.
I'd like to see it.
Did you recognize that the motion, would you like me to read the motion from July to help you?
I believe Attorney Schwab was here for the.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
So, respectfully, I don't have any comments for this.
Fair enough. Would the board like me to reread the motion from July, or June 25th of 2018, for their help in deliberating this, and what my opinion is, an unlawful action, and give us the opportunity to rescind it prior to potentially having a liability to the district for such an action?
Motion and a second, any comment on the floor?
I'd like to hear it.
I'll read it. Or actually, Melissa, can I have you read it into the record since you're the one that typed it up?
Mr. Bradley,
I don't
just
know if that's
for the motion, because it was something that we produced, I would like you to read it as an official statement, not us.
You want to read it or not?
No, I would like you to read it as an
You want me to
official
read it?
statement. Yep.
Sure. I don't want to hog the meeting, so, let other voices be heard. Gotta love sarcasm. Okay. Per recommendation of investigative report to prohibit board member number 003 from having direct contact with any district employee in such instances where his or her elected duties require contact with district employees, the board requires board member 003 to schedule appointments in advance only with the superintendent or business administrator. They shall determine in their sole discretion if any employees are needed at any meeting. Should there be a disagreement as to the employee attendance, board member 003 may appeal to the entire board at its next regular scheduled meeting the superintendent or business administration's decision. The board's decision shall be final. Further, board member number 003 shall be barred from the high school and the administration building unless attending an advertised public meeting or a duly called executive session in connection with his or her elected duties, or at a meeting set forth above with the superintendent or business administration. Upon approval of this recommendation, it shall remain in effect for 1 year for the date of its approval, and it was approved by 5-4, Holland, Spinelli, Wentz, Yenser, and Larry Stern voting for, and the rest voting against. And if anyone would like to pull up the school policies and Pennsylvania School Code sections 407 or 510, or school policy 907, or even school policy 001, I welcome their determination as to whether or not it was lawful or unlawful, saving the district and myself, well, actually it won't cost me much, thousands of dollars in litigating costs associated with this, what I feel is an unlawful official action taken by this board on June 25th, 2018.
So we have a motion on the floor to repeal?
Rescind. I use the word rescind.
Rescind an unlawful action.
Right. Motion to rescind the unlawful official action taken on June 25th, 2018 by board members Holland, Spinelli, Stern, Wentz, and Yenser to prohibit citizen David Francis Bradley Sr. from having direct contact with any district employee and bar the same citizen from the Lehighton Area School District High School and Administration Building facilities for a time period of June 25th, 2018 through June 25th, 2019.
Any comments from the floor?
Would you not have to strike the word unlawful because there has been no legal determination to label it such?
That's not my call. It's his motion. Ms. Bowman?
I don't see it as unlawful. I think that motion, it basically puts some parameters around citizen Mr. Bradley, and I believe he just has to do certain hoops to be able to go into the high school and to administration based upon past experience and experiences with employees. So I don't see it as unlawful as far as putting parameters around it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments?
I think we should strike this because it is an opportunity for our district to get sued.
I think our solicitor should prepare information to find where it is lawful for him to advise such a motion to this board.
I think he should read it.
I think
Any further comment? Mr. Bradley, Ms. Worming?
I believe if Citizen Bradley would be acting accordingly like he should, maybe this would have never occurred. Why don't you act your age instead of somebody in elementary school? Thank you. You deserve it.
You're welcome, Mr. Workman. Thank you for your opinion and your voice. I will continue to fight to make sure you can use it here in these board meetings.
Okay, there's a motion by Mr. Bradley and there was a second by Mrs. Mahalik.
Do you want a roll call?
I do.
Do you want David to repeat it, because I couldn't write that all down?
I'll
get it on the feedback from the audio, but
I will cut it off and hand it to you, because I read it
part
first.
is, you have it there, sir?
Yes, I did. Let me, I took off the legal notes here.
So the motion by Mr. Bradley, seconded by Mrs. Mahalik, to rescind unlawful official action taken on June 25th, 2018 by Board Directors Holland, Spinelli, Stern, Wentz, and Yancer to prohibit citizen David Bradley from having direct contact with any district employee and bar the same citizen from the LASD High School and Administration Buildings facility for the time period of June 25th, 2018 through June 25th, 2019.
If you, hold on.
18
Because of, yeah, that's fine. Because of the advice that I learned from people speaking here, if you'd like to add the word allegedly in front of unlawful, if Gail would accept that as a change to the motion, I'm in agreement with that, and I think that's a wonderful idea provided by our citizens. Thank you for the help.
Okay, that has been added. Okay. Mr. David Bradley?
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Holland?
No.
Mrs. Gail Mahalik?
Yes.
Mrs. Rita Spinelli?
No.
Mr. Wayne Wentz?
No.
Mr. Andy Answer?
Based upon the actions that took place in protection of our staff, no.
Mr. Ray Beers?
Yes.
Mr. Richard Belts?
Yes.
Mr. Larry Stern?
I will not vote even if it's an alleged unlawful action, so, no.
So we have 5 no, 4 yes, the motion denied.
I'm sorry, you said you will not vote, or you would, you voted no?
I said no.
You voted no?
Right.
Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure I clarify that.
Director's concerns?
Big director's concern.
Mr. Holland?
I come to these meetings every month.
Hold on, if it's a director concern, it was supposed to be on the agenda prior to the date. He had to do this in new business. Is that correct, Mr. Stern? Can we go back to new business?
Make a motion or make a statement. You get a chance to
That's
say it.
fine.
Yeah, you get a chance. You have all your opportunities to speak, so.
I just want to make sure that we don't violate his rights.
I believe you have already violated rights by putting motions under director's concerns. Thank you.
Director's concerns. I come to these meetings every month. I see chaos here every month because one individual decides they control the meeting. I believe that same individual voted for this gentleman up front to be the president of the organization. But it seems like every meeting, he has control. And I think from now on, that person, I will say his name, Mr. Bradley, please address this gentleman up front instead of, hold on, I'll answer that question. Go to your president and say, could I please answer that question? You are not the mouthpiece of this organization. Right here's the gentleman that you voted for.
Correct.
Well, please follow, as you would say, the regulations and everything else. But no, Mr. Bradley thinks he's the mouthpiece. And I agree with people that say he thinks he is the mouthpiece. Please go through the common courtesy of going through our president. Thank you.
Mr. Stern, can I reply to that?
I knew, Mr., you would get the last word.
Yeah.
So,
Mr.
hold
Stern,
on.
can I reply to that? Was that a yes, Mr. Stern?
Yes.
Thank you. Good advice, Steve. I have adopted it and I'm already using it.
Any other directors' concerns?
Yes, Mr. Cleaver, would you like to tell everybody what happened today and what we did on Channel 13, how we announced what was going on with the kids' ice first?
Oh, okay, I'm thinking there was something, I did my report, sorry about that.
No, I just think that we should talk about this.
Today, Channel 13 did come down and do a report, I believe it was aired today at 5:30, at least that's what they said, about the Lions Club doing the eye exams for the students at the elementary school. We had a lot of positive feedback, we had a lot of good press from it, the individuals that were there were fantastic. They explained it, the school nurses came out, had an opportunity to see exactly the process that's going to take place. We currently have about 850 students who will be getting their eyes examined through the Lions Club. And so again, it was just a nice thing in public relations piece for the district and the community, so the students will have another screening for their vision, and this will be offered through the Lions Club. And again, at this point, there's 850 students, and we think there may be some more once they know exactly what it is that may request the additional screening. So yes, that will happen today. And I believe probably within a day or two, Channel 13 usually has it online on their website that you can go in and view the piece from today. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, they're going to do it October 29th and 30th in the elementary center.
Correct.
And I just say also, I attended, and what the parents and the public need to realize is this is more of a screening than they're going to get from their eye doctor, because it identifies certain things that a regular eye exam will not identify. So even if you have your child's eyes examined by a doctor, you should really consider letting this take place, because they can find some early signs of things that may not be apparent.
Mr. Stern,
Anything further?
if you have one more. Anybody else want to go before? Okay. Today I met with one of our IT departments while we were reviewing the bills, Mr. Marcus Statham, right? Do I pronounce that right? Marcus? Go with sorry, IT Marcus. And after discussion with Mr. IT and Marcus, it has become apparent that the affidavit that was filed by our district should be reviewed by Mr. Marcus to confirm its accuracy, and if a correction needs to take place, we should do it as soon as possible prior to any citizen or individual finding the conflict between the affidavit and Mr. Marcus' testimony or information. Can we please have, without a motion, can I please have you review that with Marcus as, right, and check it against Mr. Tack and find out if there's a discrepancy, and if so, recommend a correction to it as soon as possible. Same with the affidavit by Ms. Winhorn. Thank you.
May I ask what's the affidavit?
It's public knowledge. If you do it right to know, you can get it. I'd love to give it to you, but I think it would be an error at this time if we don't have it coming directly from the district to an individual citizen. And I also would recommend, hold on, one more second, sorry. I just love to talk apparently. I would like the board to advise, without a motion, to the administration that if this request comes through, to process it immediately so that the citizens can review the information. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Fryland, may I ask a question? If it's brought up in a public meeting by a board meeting, isn't that information to be shared?
Sorry, what is your question?
My question is, what specific affidavit was he referencing? And he said, I have to do a right to know. My question as a citizen is saying, if you brought that up at a public meeting, why can't you specifically state what that information is? Because it's public. He's now made it public. So what is there to hide? So why would you have to, with all of us here, have to go through a right to know? It's just a simple affidavit. I don't know what it is.
Larry, can I please answer this one? Please?
I was asking Mr. Fryland.
I understand, but Larry, can I please, Larry? In honor of Steve Holland's new motion to me, to make sure I play nice, can you please?
Let Mr. Fowler speak?
Sure.
Sure. Just a moment, I don't know what affidavit he's referring to or what issues he's referring to, so I don't know any number of reasons why it might not be disclosable, but if he's saying it is,
Well,
again,
then,
I
see,
don't.
my concern is that, you're promoting transparency, and you've already brought this up. So now we all sit here saying, what's not transparent about it? I'm a little bit confused. That's talking out of both sides of your mouth, so, just my opinions, that's it, do what you want, so. It's my opinion. Thank you.
Please, Larry?
Mr. Bradley, you may speak. I said speak.
I know, I love it. I just think it's great. Thank you, Steve. This is awesome. The information is available on the right to know. It should be transparent through the district. Every document that the district publishes that is available through the right to know law should be shared without being requested. And now you can see the value of that ideology. And thank you for recognizing how important transparency is, because it is that information.
You've brought it up, why can't you share it with us?
I
And please,
hold on, as a board member.
Do me a favor, Mr. Bradley, don't be condescending to me.
I'm not. I think it's wonderful. No, I'm seriously think it's wonderful.
I brought it up.
I thought it was great.
You know, if I want to do a right to know, I'll do it.
I think it's great. No, I'm not condescending. I think it's fantastic that the community is learning how to get information out of its district. And I think that one of the easiest things we can do is, since I have it with me, you can hand it to the administration, what we're referring to, although they're the ones that gave it to me, and they can share it, but you don't want to get it from me specifically. It really has to go through a procedure and a process, as you mentioned. And that process currently is limited to any individual in a district asking for information, requires it to become a right to know, requires you to fill out the paperwork, and requires you to pay a bill to the district if you want a copy of it. I would love for that to change. And I hope that you're going to be on my side.
Mr. Bradley, the other districts that you said you requested right to know from and you got them so quickly, you did have to request that, right? They didn't just send it to you or didn't make it public to you?
That's funny. Actually, no. Many of the districts that I pulled the information from have it published on their website, Rita. And other ones, when you ask the question, can you send this to me, without the right to know law, without any obstruction, without any other lawyers or solicitors or rulings, they say, sure, and they email it to you without any
So then you
documentation.
didn't file right to know?
I did file right to knows on the ones that I needed to get the information from that follow an obstructionist view. And I also got it from websites that offered a transparent view, like Mrs. Bowman's promoting. And I also got it from districts that didn't require a right to know. You just asked. And you said, hey, can I have this information? They say, sure, here's where it's on the website. Or sure, I'll email it to you. Or sure, how can I get it to you? And here's the nice thing about it. I did it as a citizen. You don't even need to be a board member to ask these questions. And if you go to Allentown's district, they publish a book every month of all the information. When you saw me taking all those pictures, they published that book. It's transparency that reduces the cost of a district, saving us tens of thousands of dollars in solicitor fees and litigation. I think it's wonderful that this is being discussed in an open public meeting. Thank you for engaging us.
And so that, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Mrs. Spelman, sorry.
So the people you did file right to knows for, okay, you said there were a few that you had to file right to knows because they were obstructionists, as you claim we are. Did they tell you why you had to file a right to know? Was it because of redaction? Was it because of personnel? Was it because of, you know, anything that they needed to do, or that was just their policy?
I can't speculate what they do and why. However, I did notice that many of the districts blindly adopt PSBA policy without any modification or any change, as you've seen here in this district. However, when you have a board of 9 and they review those policies and see an opportunity for savings, they don't dogmatically and just rubber stamp or abdicate their authority. They use that authority, much like that presentation by that woman that said, stand up and do it. And that's what this board is supposed to do. That's what I'm doing, and I hope that you will become a person that does it too.
I am doing it. I'm standing up for the things I believe. They don't happen to be the things you believe, but I'm standing up as strongly and as loudly as I can, Mr. Bradley.
And what's funny, oh sorry, Mr. Chair, can I reply? Please?
It continues to be a condescending attitude.
It's not. I want to be fair. Can I reply?
You just replied, you've been
I
bantering
meant
with
to.
her for the last
I'm
5 minutes. You might as well finish, Mr.
I'm learning. I'm making sure I adopt the habit. It takes a little time. I'm a little old, as Mr. Workman mentioned. The policy that you're talking about is currently just echoed from PSBA. So if you feel that you differ from my opinion, you should express that in writing, because when you write things, you agree with most of what I say, Rita. And when I read when you're in a meeting, you agree with a lot of these things. I think you just like to disagree with me and don't even understand what you're saying half the time. However, if you'd like some proof of that, I'll be glad to write another diatribe.
Okay. That's the end of the director's concern.
Yes, let's move on.
Hold on, sorry, Larry, can I make a statement, please?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Gloria. Gloria, may I?
Wait, we're going
Yes,
through.
Mr. Bradley, continue to make your statements.
Okay, now I'm making a statement about that. We don't want to miss the opportunity for Mrs. Bowman to speak.
I just wanted to know, Mr. Bradley, from you, what specific districts did you contact to be able to share with all of us that have all of this stuff on the website and are so transparent? Can you identify them?
Larry?
She asked you a direct question, Mr. Bradley. Don't do this, please, don't.
Steve mentioned, and it's right.
Now
He's
you're
right.
Now you're being.
I'm not. He's right.
Like
You're
Mr.
running.
Bradley.
I do not want to come off that I'm trying to run a meeting.
Ms. Bowman asked you a question. Please reply to her.
Sure. I will be glad to email you the information, and I'll be glad to publish it on the website. There are so many that it will be difficult. However, you can mention that, let me pull it up. Trefferton, there's Hazelton, there's a variety. I will make sure I get them to you before the next meeting, Mrs. Bowman. Out of respect to your question, I will respond to your request. Thank you.
Okay. Moving on. You finished, Mr. Bradley? You finished?
I'm not running a meeting, too.
He's asking you the question. I'm asking you a question, you may respond.
I have nothing further.
Thank you. On the courtesy of the floor, Ms. Bose.
Okay, going back to motion K, which didn't pass. I have a question. I'm not sure how to ask it. I filed a right to know, and it was denied. And then I appealed it to the Office of Open Records, and they upheld the appeal. And And then there was a number of papers filed by the district through, I think it was Eric that actually filed them, but Mr. Schwab, which would have cost money, but it was not done through a motion to the board. Now, I don't know if that qualifies under what you were trying to accomplish with motion K. Because they did specifically ask, when they filed those papers, I think it was at somewhere around 4 p.m. on the 17th, which was the day of the meeting, but the last day to file. I think they had to be filed, anything had to be filed by 5 p.m., I don't remember exactly that date. So I didn't know if that is what you were trying to accomplish, to avoid that, to where we didn't have a meeting, so it couldn't be,
Just the denial for the Office of Open Records or the right to know request, the way that works, if it comes to our right to know office, we do review with our solicitor, depending on, some of them are very quick, copy of the contract, or, copy of board minutes, or what have you, some are very quick. When there's more extensive research and review required, we do, look at it, and there is times where things are denied. And so that comes through the administration and the right to know officer. The board doesn't decide whether, as a group, is not denying it.
right, but what I'm saying is the solicitor got involved and had to, I guess it would be called the responsive pleading. Would
Right,
be-
anytime we have any question, of any type of right to know request, administration has to go to the solicitor for review, as do many other districts.
Well, no, and I get that, but what I'm trying to ask here is, since the motion was on the agenda, I'm wondering, should it have gone before the board prior to that being done? It just makes me question the procedure that was used in my case, because I have actual knowledge of it.
Right, without knowing the exact case, because we're dealing unfortunately with so many at this point, I can't really say how it related to your case, but I'll look into that, but I don't want to say for sure, but I think it was a timing.
Obviously, money
issue
was
here.
spent for the solicitor to do this.
Right.
And since money was spent, it has to be approved by the board,
No, not for administration, we have.
Oh, okay, that's
We
what I'm
contact
asking.
with the solicitor in situations where it be child custody issues that come up, those type of things.
Oh,
As
okay.
far as the board, yes, but as far as the administration, at this time, we are not, required by a board motion for approval, because again, probably 2-3 times a day, there's things that pop up that may or may not, mean hear or opinion from Eric or Attorney Schwab, and a lot of that is like child custody type things, we're just.
Okay, no, I get that, it's just, I never even would have thought of it except for the motion that was on the agenda today. Thank you.
Mr. Slavovich?
I just want to follow up on the public comment. Has that been going through committees? Does anybody know that we get this taken off? We can just orally raise our hand. I know that you suspected, Larry, that it would become disorderly. I just want to raise my hand if I wanted to talk at this point in the meeting, instead of actually filling that out. And
We don't have that, at this point, we have not, no.
So
We haven't made that change yet.
I mean, has it been in the committee yet? Has it been
I
talked
don't know
about?
that we've actually met since you requested it, Mr.
You didn't?
Yeah, the last policy committee meeting and change of policy was to discuss the student handbook. So the next policy will be December.
And I think maybe what Barbara was getting at was Dave's right to knows was voted on here at a meeting to take that to court over the 7,700 emails, and Barb's wasn't. I think that's maybe where she was coming from, why the board decided on his but not on hers. And maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's what she was getting at.
Well,
I'm not sure.
Thank you.
Public comment, courtesy of the floor.
Hey, now, are they still doing them or not?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Kraus?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the need to start focusing on some education issues with the school. I was thrilled, I didn't know about the program until I showed up tonight, that they had the Holocaust victim involved. But these kinds of programs can help with the new ESSA requirements that are coming down the pipe. I talked to a number of other schools, and they're already working on their staff development. They're all already working on aligning these kinds of programs with the standards that are going to be coming down the pike. And my concern is that we're not going to be sufficiently prepared because we're focused on all this other chatter that happens. We spend, 5 minutes on, 10 minutes on a presentation and 2 hours wrangling over things. It's been 10 months of it. The wrangling's been going on, and yet I don't hear any focus or discussion on curriculum. I don't see where all the wrangling is helping our students. It certainly isn't helping the tenor of discussion in the room here. So I'd certainly like to see us get back on board with functioning as a board, as collaborating as a board, and spend time on those. Again, I listened to 10 months of wrangling. We've spent thousands of dollars on legal fees, and I've yet to see one value brought to the district or our students from all of this wrangling.
Mr. Wentz?
Yeah, can I speak from here?
Someone get the microphone. Just get in the microphone.
Okay, and as Mr. Kraus said, 10 months of nonsense. I've been sitting here keeping my mouth shut, trying to keep respect somewhat in this school district. I love this school district. I was born and raised here. I graduated from here. A month after I graduated, I was going to spend 4 years in the military. I spent 13 months in Vietnam. I was in the jungles, in the rice paddies, as Mr. Workman was, and I fought those people over there, never realizing 50 years later I'd have to come back and put up with this. You know, it's sad. It's really sad, so I'm going to tell you what I think right now. Okay, start with, I wrote this letter. Nobody wrote it for me that I'd have to stand here and read it. Someone on this board tried to paint a picture of gloom and doom, when actually it is the opposite. We are seeing our community grow by leaps and bounds. A candy store, a bakery, outdoor center on the bypass, St. Luke's on 9th Street, a winery, a Kia building a brand new beautiful building, Dollar Tree, not to mention a hospital being planned in Franklin, along with a KFC and Wendy's coming to 443. Where is the doom and gloom in that? We have Scranton to the north, Allentown to the south. Guess who's in the middle? Lehigh. Hey, and people are recognizing that. Our numbers, I believe, are going up in students. People are moving in, not moving out. I think the last count was 49 houses were purchased as of July 1st in this community, you know, and what really bothers me is people, some who I've known my whole adult life, actually chose to believe nonsense instead of the truth. 5 members of this board and 4 from the previous board, 5 years in a row, no tax increases. Build a beautiful stadium, a new elementary center. We had not one school closed because of mold. Look around at all the other schools. This is a great school district. We have A+ ratings on our teachers and administration. I have no idea why people want to tear this down and bring such negativity to this district. Thank you.
If it's green, it's on, not push it again.
You know, I usually don't get up here and speak because it's just not my nature, but enough is enough. We've talk about transparency all the time, but one of the things we got to realize is, I believe one of our folks, Mr. Bradley, and I'm looking in your direction, isn't as transparent as you want as everybody to believe you are. Back 3 years ago with Train. Your company dealt with Train, you were a provider to Train. You had many meetings with Train. You, Mr. Hill, had meetings with Train. You boasted how great Train was. There had to be something going on. Why would you continue to go down the path of train, and not want to look at other alternatives? As a business person, when you desire to go out and bid it competitively, no, you decided to Train. Let's force Train down our throat. Let's go Train. Well, we did go Train. We went to McClure and saved over $3 million. Same benefits, same system, same things. So why are we so hooked on Train? You're a provider. What did you have to gain from Train? Are you a provider to Train still? Are you a provider to McClure? I don't know. Why would you as a businessman not want to competitively bid something for a district where you're going to end up paying the bill? Which is completely opposite of what you're doing around here. I mean, it's always, oh, let's go look here to save money. Let's go look there to save money. No. I'm in bed with Train. I just don't understand it. Now, let me congratulate you on one thing. It only took me 10 months. 10 months to figure out that my wife actually works for the district. Wow, what a man. Huh? Start drilling into personal issues. Start going after family. That's perfect. That's perfect. Well, guess who else worked for this district? I did. Summer maintenance worker in the early 1980s. Guess what I did? Ground off red lead paint and such up at the stadium. You know what else I did? I cleaned toilets when there was a custodial strike. I did all that type of work. You know who else worked for the district? My two boys. They actually work for this district as summer maintenance people. Doing painting, grass cutting, whatever needed to be done. So, if you want to know, just ask me. Don't go drilling and asking Mrs. Wagner about my personal information. And now my final question is, how low will you go? How low will you go to start drilling into people's personal lives? Maybe somebody will start digging into yours and see how much you appreciate it. I just don't understand it. You know, we elected a man. A man? Oh. I thought our differences were really ideological, but now I see it's personal. Thank you.
Mr. Stern, would you like a reply?
No.
Just sit there and smell.
Okay. That was the last courtesy of the floor. Next regular scheduled meeting is Monday, November 19th at 7 p.m. I'll take a motion and a second to adjourn. Mr. Holland? Mr. Spinelli? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Time 10:11. Thank you for coming, everyone. Sorry it took so long. Meeting's over, Mr. Bradley.